Is it weird to think that it's been a year?
Yeah. There's sometimes when it seems like it has flown by, and then there's other times when you look at like all the shit that we've learned about. It's like, wow, that's we've done a lot.
Yeah, like I've gone through and just kind of looked at the topics and everything, and I feel like I've retained a pretty decent amount of the information. It's just crazy to me that we picked out like 52 different topics so far up to this point and been able to be consistent about it is probably the most amazing thing.
Yeah, yeah, we haven't missed a week yet, which says a lot about us.
Knock on wood.
We've had plenty thrown our way.
No,
It still hasn't.
yes, we
hasn't
still,
gone
yeah,
down,
we
so.
plan and we adapt around it. So what are we talking about today?
Uh,
What are we going to do
since it is
for
the
our
season.
big 1 year, our annual 420 spectacular?
First off, I got a bone to pick, and this goes for anybody that thinks that they're too cool or that they want to just talk about 420 is like, oh, it's a stoner's holiday. That's awesome, dude. What are you going to do? Like eat and smoke pot and hang out? Like it's not that big of a deal? Listen, I don't judge you for doing Easter. I don't understand Easter. I don't judge people for doing St. Patrick's Day, even though it's a made-up holiday, just as much. Christmas, still don't really get it. It's not really the actual time of year where any of this took place. So if we're going to bag on holidays for being made-up holidays, 420 is not the one you start with.
Does Scientology have a... I bet they do have a holiday.
What would they have? Like Tom Cruise's birthday.
Probably Elron's
Elron's
birthday.
birthday.
I would assume some other stuff.
But-
They got to have like... Xan... It's not Xan. What's the name of the Xenu? They got to have like a Xenu day, right?
Maybe there's a day that they figured out that he came and dropped the humans off. But
Nuke the world.
regardless, if you want to make fun of people's holidays, that's fine. Just realize that you're an asshole for doing it because everybody enjoys something different. And I honestly can't think of a better holiday. Why do people like Thanksgiving? It's not because we talk highly about Native Americans and we really get into that story. Number one part about Thanksgiving, food. Christmas, yeah, we talk about Jesus a little bit, that kind of thing, get you in the mood and the spirit. What's the main attraction of Christmas? Presents.
Oh, yeah.
Hanukkah, I'd like to look into it more and understand it. I assume 8 nights of presents is probably pretty sweet. You get to light the menorah, you get to eat challah bread. Sounds awesome. Halloween, kind of the same deal. It's all about candy and trick-or-treating. Why can't we have a holiday that can be free from criticism to just get stoned and enjoy it? Like, I get that that's what you do for potentially 364 other days
I
of the
don't know
year.
if you need... Maybe there are those people that are just... They do it on the yearly. You think there's just people out there that are like, we only do it on this day. It's like, this is the only time... Kind of like how the only time you eat ham is usually like Christmas.
Christmas, Easter.
Like no one buys a ham for really anything. Oh, I guess Easter. I did just have ham for Easter.
I just feel like it's okay to take a day to enjoy shit. That's just sort of what you should do. And
Mine has a different meaning now. My child's birthday is 420.
which is even better.
Which
It's just the gift that keeps on giving.
Remember her going into labor early that morning and just being like, I didn't want this to happen. I was like, I did.
Hey, I feel like, not to pat myself on the back, I think I called that like a couple months before, and she was not pleased that
You
was...
put it out there. I think you put
it into the world.
Well, I mean, the date in which we had sex, put it out there into the world. But yeah, I think you spoke it into her head.
And I'm happy about that. How cool is that? Oh, that's a fun birthday to have.
Yeah, I have a 420 baby.
How much worse could it have been if he was born on September 11th? Like, that shit's not going to be fun.
Oh no, not at all.
You're not blowing out the candles the day that the Twin Towers fell. It's just... it's a good day. And you remember our first 420, the celebration? We got up.
Well, maybe I shouldn't remember some of it.
No, it was a great day. Me, you, and Cav got up, wake and baked. Then we got together, smoked again, made it over to the buffet, smashed up the buffet, came back. I believe we watched Half Baked first. Then after Half Baked, we went and smoked a blunt. Came back, we watched... Oh, fuck. No, I don't remember. Harold and Kumar, maybe. That was just how we spend our days. That's how I used to
Where
spend
was this
420s.
at?
Over at my apartment?
I barely recall any of this.
Really?
Yeah.
It must have been a good day.
If it was early on in my career, then yeah, it probably would be hard to recall.
That was just doing it as a kid. This is another one of those holidays I sort of feel like when you're a kid, it's just so much more fun. Like being a broke, stupid college student, you could get stoned and then you could go to the park and like barefoot your way through a frisbee game and just really enjoy the holiday for what it's worth. Now, as a working stiff, you have to kind of fit it in around different
It's like planning a kid's birthday party. You just go to the next weekend.
Yeah.
It's whatever weekend is closer or more convenient. Then you
can't,
just
though.
celebrate.
It's got to be today. And I can't explain to you the significance of the justification of why it has to be
You mean
today
tomorrow?
on the day. Or yeah, tomorrow. Sorry.
Tomorrow.
But it's a very important time in pretty much anyone's life.
Here's one thing too that I think is going to add a little bit of variety to what essentially we're going to be talking about today is I think with this being something that was like in your life like early on, I think that's where our like viewpoints of kind of the culture are a little bit different. I guess mine are like they're not like brand new view, but mine are newer definitely.
Oh yeah.
And so that's why I think we associate different things within the whole pop culture of like weed culture and everything like that. That's why I think we identify with different things. And I think that's a good thing too.
Well, and I think going through this process of continuing studying pot and pop culture, yeah, you got to see, like, this was your first time watching Cheech and Chong.
Yes.
For all the times that you were talking about how you watched James Bond too young, I watched Cheech and Chong far too young. Caddyshack far too young. Like, I remember Cheech and Chong from, like, I want to say single digits. It was the 90s, so it would have been right around single digits. Like, far too early in life. But it was just a certain sense of humor that my dad had, and I don't really want to walk into
the absurdity of it.
Yeah, and just the stand-up aspect of it and kind of the bittiness of it. To me, it's just one of those movies that's always been in my life, and it was in my life before I started smoking pot. I think there was a natural progression to like leaning towards it and like buying the poster to put on my wall once I did start smoking pot.
It made it seem like watching that movie, and we're going to talk about it.
Oh, yeah.
Going through the cinema aspect of it, but there's been a lot of comments about Up in Smoke is that was the turning point where how marijuana was portrayed on the screen instead of being like Reefer Madness, where it was like basically the exaggerated effects of like heroin and everything. You got Up in Smoke that basically took the danger element out of it, and it was just the fun, giggly part of it.
It completely disarmed the subject.
Yeah. And I think that's why it probably left, had your first introduction into it been like a PSA or like Reefer Madness or any of that kind of shit, you would probably not be like, have as much of a, what am I trying to say here? Like, seeing it through rose-colored glasses. It made it seem fun and like lighthearted and stuff like the way it ought to.
The starting point for really any opinion you have on something is so important that it's unbiased, and maybe Up in Smoke was biased the other way, but Reefer Madness was one of those things where I'm sure in the day it hit and it was probably rough for some people, but having the chance of watching it so many years after it's like, this is the dumbest shit that I've ever seen. Like, this is there's nothing good about this that anybody should believe. Like, none of that is true. There's very few drugs that could make you do any of that shit.
You would need to take like a cocktail of drugs to get each of those. And then if you did take weed as part of that cocktail, weed would be the one sitting in the corner being like, the fuck is everybody doing right now? I just want to get out of here.
We just need to take a deep breath and think about this plan again, because this whole plan is just fucked.
All right. Well, I guess kind of enough beating around the bush. So basically for our first anniversary episode, we're going to explore basically weed and popular culture. and kind of hit a big four categories, some more than others. We're going to be hitting movies, music, TV, and doing some sports. And kind of how weed kind of found itself into these, I guess not really cultures, but kind of into this part of American life, and then kind of where it's at today. If that makes sense.
And just like we were talking about with Reefer Madness, there was a really different understanding of cannabis, marijuana, weed, whatever you want to call it. The whole way that it was perceived was so different, and through the years we've seen pop culture kind of bleed marijuana into the conversation of how the laws and criminalization is shaped today. I don't think we would be anywhere near as legal as we are, unfortunately still not completely legal, but as legal as we are in this country, without having artists, rappers, athletes, actors, just really anybody that had a voice to say something about it. So it just, sorry. There's kind of a way that it seems to trend, and we've seen marijuana in music. I mean, probably as far back as...
I think that's the first place it probably showed up.
It has to be.
Yeah, what I'm saying is not so much showed up, but showed up as prevalently as it did.
It was going to be an artistic medium, really, no matter how it showed up.
Yeah, exactly.
That
That's where,
see.
Music is where you have to be at your most creative, I feel like.
Just like we talked about in the Nixon episode, that fun little story of Louis Armstrong having Richard Nixon smuggle the weed through customs for him. Like, Louis Armstrong was a phenomenal trumpet player that I think had a very long, illustrious career, and he was a very open pot smoker. Like, it came through in his music, it came through in what he would talk about. That kind of was him. And to look at athletes back then, no, not at all, really. All it was baseball players, I think, at that point.
Yeah.
Actors, there really wasn't a whole lot going on.
It might be different for like writers and stuff like that too.
True.
Like, I don't know if you want to blend in like screenplays or TV scripts, things like that for TV, even, for movies, writing that. But I think there's something about like being like a musician or something. You have to kind of just play around and make sounds that might not sound good and kind of almost allow yourself to be like a joke a little bit. Like, you have to sit there and just make ridiculous moves on a keyboard or, playing guitar, trying to strum chords together, and it could sound horrible. And I think what weed does for like a lot of artists is it basically just takes away that inhibition of being like, I can just sound however I want to sound right now. Let's just mess around and see what comes together. You don't have that, like, that part of that. I don't know what you would consider about, like, that shyness holding you back,
like
even if...
An inhibition.
Yeah.
You lose that ability to care about what it sounds like, and through that you find art.
But you never get to the point where, and yeah, you can't get sloppy, or you can get to the point where you're not able to work your instrument, but it's not like alcohol where it's almost like a diminishing returns. Slowing down your reflexes, things like that.
The other thing that it does kind of seem like, I guess maybe... depending on how you feel about like Bob Dylan and the Beatles, but in the beginning, the only way through music, and just kind of starting in the 60s, because I feel like that's sort of when the pot revolution took off. We kind of decided that was right around there.
Even before that, there's like two examples that they were talking about with like folks and blues musicians. One of them is called Lead Belly, the other Billy Monroe. And so there were some not allusions, but references for marijuana and stuff like that in some of their music. But
Fats Domino had to have done something. Fats Domino had to have done some kind of pot smoking songs.
I have no idea who that is.
Neither do I. It just sounds like a jazz guy.
Well, jazz and blues is actually where it hit next, and that was like in the 50s and 60s. And that was musicians that people know about, like Miles Davis and John Coltrane.
I gotta say, not to color this up at all, black people nailed pop culture or pot songs so much better than white people.
Oh, yeah.
It's bad. Neil Diamond has one that he wrote in 68 called the Pot Smokers song. It's damn near unlistenable. And I like Neil Diamond for the most part, but I just fucking so bad. Little Help from My Friends with the Beatles in '67. That was kind of a banger. I mean, the Beatles made pretty good music for the most part.
They were
but
white,
yeah,
but they were also British, so I guess
a
that
little bit different.
Okay, yeah.
British Invasion
The
was
scale
different.
for white it to British. Okay.
Steppenwolf. Familiar with Steppenwolf? They wrote a song called "Don't Step on the Grass, Sam," and it's awful too. It's very, very bad. But then you look at the Doors coming in to save white people with "Light My Fire." Fantastic song. So I would say that's great. "Rainy Day Woman" was Bob Dylan's foray into marijuana, but you can't. Nothing holds a candle to Purple Haze. Jimi Hendrix was the guy, I think.
And I mean, just going back, and it's not just the artists that may have been inspired by it or used it or anything like that. It's when you start listing off even people that made references to it or talked about it in interviews. They've inspired so many other artists that, like, if you lose that inspiration, like, whatever comes to be. Like, just listen off some names in the 60s, late 60s. This is where reggae started to get a little bit of a foothold. You had Bob Marley and Peter Tosh. Early rock and roll, Elvis, Jerry Lewis, Little Richard, the Beatles, like you said, Rolling Stones, Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, Crosby, Stills and Nash, Jefferson Airplane, Black Sabbath, Grateful Dead, Beach Boys, Tom Petty. I mean, you can keep listing things off, but like, this is some of the best music to come out of this decade, if not ever, are done by these
Well, yeah,
people.
and some of those names are very surprising that they were going off in the '60s. Because, like, Neil Diamond, I think he's still alive. Like, he's fairly recently done some good things. Bob Dylan, I think he's still alive, too. Still regularly puts out music. We never stop hearing about the Beatles. The Doors the same way. Jimi Hendrix the same way. Like, those guys have historic staying power. But Neil Diamond, Aerosmith, did you say?
That's another one, definitely. I read their autobiography.
Like, they've spanned these decades of music to
There's
still be doing
something,
things.
maybe there's something to the medical side of it, the longevity. How do you think the fucking Rolling Stones are still doing it?
I don't know. I do know that
Elton John, I listened to Rocket Man. There's no way that you're writing Rocket Man if you're not smoking.
is Rocket Man about getting high?
Yeah, remember? And he's like, and I'm gonna be high
Oh, okay.
as a kite by 10.
I completely forgot about that. Yeah, it was all over, and it definitely gets incorporated into different genres of music as it gets along. But you have rock, jazz, blues, just anything. I would say pop music, because the Beatles had to have been pop music back then, right?
They were considered, I think, rock back then.
Really?
I think a bit like Brit rock or something like that.
Yeah. Neil
There,
Diamond.
there was nothing that went hard back with the Beatles. There was like, that was as hard as it got. And after that, we got hard rock
Bunch
and
of
then
dudes.
metal.
Bunch of dudes in bowl cuts and suits
Nothing-
rocking.
Nothing had ever rocked that hard at him.
Okay. But as far as music for the '60s, it was all over. Obviously, really nothing on television. There wasn't going to be a whole lot. The only movies that were really made references to, and the guy's name escapes me, but Easy Rider with,
Peter Fonda and Dennis Hopper.
yeah, Dennis Hopper.
Yeah, the Jack Nicholson character is like a lawyer or something. Because Peter Fonda and them are transporting coke. And then they end up giving some weed to Jack Nicholson's character, who's like a lawyer or something like that. And he goes on this philosophical rant type thing. But it was this weird kind of like, it showed you that like it wasn't the Reefer Madness thing where someone
No.
smoked and they went crazy and everything like that.
But it still was outlaw. Like, it's still.
Oh
this-
yeah,
this hadn't
definitely. The
reached
guys that
hero
had it were
stage.
trafficking cocaine. They were nefarious men. There was an episode of Dragnet back in '67 called "The Big High," and basically this married couple was having marijuana parties. I know. And basically it depicted the effects of marijuana more like what the effects of heroin would be. And then at one point they were so high they didn't notice their child drowning in the bathtub or something like that. And
Typical,
so-
happens all the time.
Yes, the kill your baby rationale. But I mean, yeah, there was even stuff depicting it in a negative way like that back in the 60s.
And
on TV.
this is right in the free love movement. Like this is counterculture's blazing right now. I believe we got Vietnam.
Vietnam.
So I do think that there's a good chance that a lot of it, like through movies and TV, had to have been suppressed because those people didn't want that counterculture out there yet. They didn't realize the cash cow that the counterculture was going to have. But music, you can't really regulate.
No.
Music's going to get out to the people regardless. So I think that was sort of where the 60s are. Moving into the 70s, music just the same thing again. Guys like Peter Tosh, Black Sabbath, Rick James makes his appearance, thank God.
I need a cowbell. Don't feel the
This is how big Boston was making songs about smoking weed. Fucking Boston was.
I see that.
Really?
Yeah.
I see
Every
them
Boston
as-
song sounds like every other Boston song, but they always cover at least something a little bit different. I just remember isn't every single cover for Boston like a spaceship with Boston written on it?
But it's like a
different spaceship.
like a portrait.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were probably.
You don't
smoking.
approve a portrait, a trippy spaceship with Boston written on a portrait unless you're stoned.
Well, we start seeing country music really get into it too. John Prine wrote a song called "Illegal Smile" about the smile that you get on your face when you get stoned.
I thought it was going to be the smile he saw his cousin have on her face.
Rush, even the Canucks were getting in on it with Passage to Bangkok. Jefferson Airplane was writing songs about Mexico. It took from what the 60s were, and these people in the 70s just completely kept blowing up. How bad is that I put up Don't Fear the Reaper on the board and put BOC thinking that I was going to remember what that stood for?
Blue Oyster Cult.
Oh, that's right. That's right. You're right.
I got it.
You're right.
I'm here for something. Yeah, Sanford and Son. I'm trying to remember if that was in the 60s, but Sanford and Son and Barney Miller both had episodes that tried to basically break the reefer madness stigma. Yeah, there seemed to have been some shows that went against it, some shows that just went to prove it wasn't a big deal. I mean, as they should. Those ones that were proven it wasn't a big deal were the ones that were more akin to just how actual society operates.
Well, in Sanford and Son too, Red Fox being the comedian that he was, he definitely ran across it. He was definitely pro pot. I mean, there's no way that a guy could be that funny and be.
How many comedians these
straight-laced.
days do you think don't smoke? Just for the creativity aspect of it. I mean, I'm sure some don't because they don't have good reactions with it, but
But you still have to continue breaking through those creative barriers, like you were talking about, to write new jokes and to try new things.
you're doing anything to broaden your mind. I'll just say this. Most of the comedians that we both listen to are,
Yeah,
yes, avid
pot smoker.
pot smokers.
And the other thing too is I don't know how those guys that aren't do it, like the clean comics. Yeah, how do you write that stuff?
Yeah.
It's insane. Movies got big. I've heard of this one, but I've never seen it. Have you ever heard of Fritz the Cat?
I've never heard of Fritz the Cat.
I gotta Google the plot points of it because it sounds awesome. I gotta think maybe this is like a spin-off of Garfield. Like maybe Garfield was a
Garfield probably was. If we're going to talk about cartoon characters that smoked, you don't go through lasagna like that.
no.
House cat, come on. Whole plate or a whole pan of lasagna.
So Fritz the Cat was in the 1960s at Washington Square Park in Manhattan. Hippies gathered to perform protest songs. Fritz the tabby cat and his friends show up in an attempt to meet girls. When a trio of attractive female dogs walk by, Fritz and his friends exhaust themselves trying to get their attention with their music, but are annoyed to find that the girls are more interested in the crow standing nearby.
Is this animated?
Yeah, it looks like it.
I hope to God this is animated, or I just misheard a whole bunch of shit that you just said.
Wild. Yeah, Fritz the Cat might be worth a watch.
I'm going to pass on Fritz the Cat.
The
I find myself more drawn to more recent.
tagline, He's X-rated and animated.
Okay.
Kind of cool.
All right, I'm glad it answers and clears that up. But the big one that people actually have heard of, Up in Smoke in 78.
And if you haven't, pause this and go watch it because it's fantastic.
It was my first time watching it.
And where would you be? I know you said some ugly things about something else I suggested, but
I didn't say ugly things. I was just simply making a point if you want to discuss that. Because I didn't like it like you do.
Yeah.
No, Up in Smoke, I liked a lot more because, okay, this will help me with my Up in Smoke review here. The reason I didn't like How High was because they were mean.
But they were funny, lighthearted shenanigans.
No, they were just mean for no reason. I understand, like, for a while, like, the white roommate that was like trying to pledge the frat and everything like that, he was kind of a douche, but they were like really mean to him. And then they were pretty mean to the Asian roommate too.
The Asian roommate was sweet though, because he was fought East Coast.
That's true. I just felt like, listen, you got to
We'll get to it.
You got to college. Like, you can't just be nice to people. Like, fuck.
We'll get to it.
All right, Up in Smoke. The only thing about this movie that I didn't get is that, like, there wasn't supposed to be, I guess I go into these movies thinking there should be like a pretty like structured plot. No, this was just a bunch of kind of like bits put together, which makes sense because it was their first movie. It was Cheech and Chong's first movie. So they probably did do a compilation of all their bits that they had success with. The plot, though, the hardened resin marijuana being turned into a van. And then the fact that, like, they're driving around the town and because it's on fire and getting hot from the exhaust, people are just getting high. The cop that I had to rewatch the part where the cop pulls up next to him on the motorcycle.
He leans down and sniffs the tailpipe.
And then comes up, and by the time he gets up to the window, he takes off his helmet and goes, "Can I help you guys?" And he's like, "What?
You stop me."
And
No.
He's like, "Can I have that hot dog?"
He doesn't even ask for the hot dog. He goes, "Can I have a bite of that hot dog?"
Yeah.
And Chong looks, he goes, "Sure, man, have the whole thing."
No, I actually did like it. And here's the thing, too, is it was just, like, funny and lighthearted and stuff.
That's how stoner movies are supposed to be. And it's just like you described with your thought process of, like, looking for a strong structured plot. The best part about a stoner movie is that it doesn't have to have that. Like, you don't have to be worried about plot points. You can just sit there and laugh your ass off and just enjoy the shit out of it. Because in the end, all movies, like some movies are supposed to depict reality. Mm-hmm. All you're supposed to do in movies is enjoy them. It's just purely entertainment.
I fully believe that. I think where the difference for me is I don't know if it's just it's not that I don't enjoy, like, the funny aspects of it and everything. I just feel like if I'm stoned and watching a movie, I'm trying to, like, pick stuff out of it and, like, kind of go deeper into it and everything. And when there's nothing deeper under there, I'm just like, it's like digging, and then the hard dirt is like 2 inches down, and you can't dig anymore. And I just keep raking my nails.
No, there's really nothing to it. I mean, Chong's a burnout rich kid whose parents cut him off. And
I love the fact that he's
40.
I love that that's the whole point is it shows him in that opening scene. I'm like, they make it sound like he's gone to like a year of college and he's 40.
He's playing in a band, but he does have the sweet Volkswagen Beetle with the Bentley grill on the front of it.
I thought it was a Rolls Royce.
Or Rolls Royce, yeah.
Yes, I thought it was a Rolls Royce, and then I saw it. I glanced away from the screen and looked back, and I saw the back, and I was like, "The fuck did I miss?"
It's all about being a good time, and we'll talk about another one coming up, Nice Dreams. You got to watch Nice Dreams after Up and Spoke, because Sergeant Stadenko really gets into, he puts his foot in it.
Are they a sequel?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they did 4 of them. Nice Dreams was probably the best sequel, and we'll talk about that coming up. But the other kind of big hit from the 70s as far as movies goes, Valley of the Dolls. Anything? Nothing?
No.
Yeah, that one doesn't sound great.
That one sounds fucking like that you wouldn't sleep that night. Be like, these fucking dolls gonna come alive?
Yeah, that's a pot horror movie. That's Chucky before Chucky.
I realize the title is probably one of those titles that has nothing to do with the actual movie, but it sounds creepy.
Could be.
All right, 80s.
Yeah, 80s was a fun decade. As far as music goes, this is really when you start seeing like hip hop and not necessarily rap, but kind of getting to it starts to embrace the marijuana culture in their music. Past the Dutchie by Music Youth. Okay.
I don't think you want to classify that as hip hop. You went from hip hop to past the touchy on the left hand side.
No, but the next one after that, compared to Chiba Chiba by Tone Loc, fantastic.
Tone Loc has like, doesn't he have like 3 hit songs?
And that's all you needed because he was a pioneer. He did it so early on that he became a producer.
There's a Wild
really.
Thing, Funky Cool Medina, and is it Chiba Chiba?
But yeah, he found what worked, and then I assume that he probably just started producing as much music as possible for everybody else because that's where the real money was back then.
And starring in your own movies.
Yeah?
Blank Check.
I forgot about that.
He's in Blank Check.
Blank Check is awesome.
How much did he write the check for? I know we're getting off topic, but wasn't it like...
I think it was $1 million.
It wasn't $1 million. Was it?
I know it wasn't like a staggering amount of money today.
Ooh, maybe it was $1 million.
Because he was a kid. He had no understanding.
But like...
It bought so much.
I know, but that's the thing. Is he like... Did he lease the house or did he buy the house? Because the house was for sale and he outbid someone like online for it, didn't he?
Uh-huh.
So he bought the house, had like a water slide attached to it, an entire video. We're getting off topic. I can't do a review of Blank Check right now.
And then you get Bob showing up at Buffalo Soldier in '83. And Bob's whole career could span this entire board just with everything, not the later years. But he was just such on the forefront of pot culture. And you had in the 70s, just a quick flashback, Peter Tosh putting out Legalize It.
I'll go as far to say that if you were to say like what artist is synonymous with marijuana, it would either like nowadays if you ask someone it would be like Snoop or maybe for our generation Snoop. There might be someone younger that younger people would pick, but if you ask someone before like Snoop and everything like that, it was Bob Marley. And even now, if people aren't into hip hop, it probably is still Bob Marley.
He's the poster child for pot and for having just a million kids. But
the poster child for love of pot, hatred of condoms. Did him and James Bond know each other?
Probably. But Bob's, his whole career was just so intertwined with pot culture, and I haven't been in a dorm room in a long time, but I remember being in college, and he had to have been in every dorm room across the country. You
go 1, 2, 3 Bob Marley poster. 1, 2, 3 Bob Marley poster.
I'm sure they even snuck him on to
there were some Tupac ones mixed in.
Some Slim Shadys in there. But that's what he was, and that's what he lived, that's what he loved. And I wish that we were doing Bob better and things were in a better way now, but I think we're getting there. I still don't know. I don't know if it's still legal in Jamaica or illegal in Jamaica.
I think it is.
Is it?
Yeah.
That's just a weird thing.
All right, movies coming out. We have... I have no idea what Nice Dreams is.
Cheech and Chong's Nice Dreams.
Oh, okay. Cheech and Chong.
Yeah, so they start selling marijuana, but they do it out of an ice cream truck.
Okay. What do they didn't call it Nice Dreams?
Yep. It's got a big old head on it, and they're just serving up that dank all across L.A. out of it.
Do they hide it in the ice cream?
No, it's just in the freezers. They're just dimes and nicks and eighths and ounces that are just in bags in the freezers.
No one's ever curious why it's only adults going up to this ice cream truck.
Again, we're diving too deep.
Okay,
for these guys.
Yeah, this is my problem, I think.
But the big thing is there is a strain of weed out on the street that is turning people into reptilian creatures.
Yes. I have to watch this now.
Yeah. Fantastic.
God
man.
Damn it.
Absolutely fantastic. One of the ones that you said that you recently went back and hit, and this is where we're going to start this conversation, but Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Okay, so here's the conversation. There are stoner movies, and there are movies with memorable stoner characters. Where probably the most memorable character in the movie is a stoner, but it's not a stoner movie. Is that what we're getting at?
Yeah.
Okay.
And this this really fits into it. Kind of the next two fit into it that I got, but Fast Times has
The next three you have.
well, the last one on there is certainly a stoner movie.
You think so?
I think so.
Okay.
But Fast Times at Ridgemont High had probably a top 10 stoner character in it, and Spicoli. He was just literally, I'm sure, what stoners looked like in the 80s. There's no way.
If someone envisioned California surfer stoner, that would be exactly what it is.
Vans, ripped jeans, long hair.
No way.
Talk just like a
Mr.
doofus
Hand.
the entire time. He was the kid that probably found pot in junior high or middle school and just rode it on into high school. And by that time in his career, he was just checked out.
Oh, yeah.
All he wanted to do was surf. But
All he needs is, what do you say? Some tasty waves, some sweet brews.
he sucked as a person. I don't think I would have been buddies with Spicoli.
Okay, so...
I'd have bought my pot from him for sure.
Yes. So, great stoner character, but not a stoner movie. Because the whole center of the movie, I'm not going to lie to you either. Fast Times, watching that as an adult, kind of creepy.
A little bit creepy, but not a bad movie still. I think it still holds up.
But it's creepy because the whole thing you've heard about, like the Phoebe Cat scene where she comes out of the pool.
Yeah, ultimate cinematic scene.
Yeah, but what they don't, like, if you see that on, like, crazy cinematic, like, memorable scenes, what they don't also tell you is, like, in the movie, she's, like, 15. And and it's actually Judge Reinhold beating his dick in the bathroom to that image of her getting, and he's having that imaginary scene of her getting out of the pool.
That's when you got to tell yourself these characters.
I understand
were all like
that,
25.
I understand that, but at the same time, going back, because like nowadays you have to watch, like, what is it on? The one that you talk about sometimes, Euphoria. Like, you watch that now and you're like, I know that these actors are much older and everything, but even still, the high school, like, sex scene part of it, it's still kind of, you're just like, eh.
It's good that you feel uncomfortable.
It is good you feel uncomfortable. What I'm saying is, back then when, like, they actually looked more that age, and I don't know, in movies like that, I feel like they used to try to cast younger. It felt a little, anyway.
A little uncomfortable.
It was a good movie, though, basically just because it had that character in it is kind of why I think it's put into that category.
I think we kind of see it with Caddyshack, too, because 1980, one of my top 5 favorite movies of all time. Caddyshack it has the stoner aspect of Bill Murray.
It's not just Bill Murray, though.
No, because...
Danny?
Yeah, Danny Noonan smokes, too. A couple of the caddies get caught smoking. Ty definitely
Is it Ty Webb?
Yeah, Ty Webb.
Ty Webb, he ends up smoking. You do drugs, Danny? Every day. Good boy. And some of the other caddies do, yeah.
So it's definitely all around it, and you get the sweet line, whatever Bill Murray says to Ty Webb when he shows him the grass, and he says that it's a mix of Kentucky bluegrass and Sensimilla.
And Sensimilla,
Like
Cannonball.
He's growing his own hybrid grass weed, and it's definitely a great movie, but it's just not a stoner movie.
Okay, so under categories of stoner movies, movies with stoners.
Yeah.
Okay. And last one, Breakfast Club.
I think that this is a full-fledged stoner movie just because, like, the most important scene is towards the end when they're all smoking. They're hanging out in the library, they're smoking in a circle.
Yeah.
Everybody's starting to give out their issues, and they're talking about it in a way. I definitely think, and the whole caper of the movie is trying to get to John's locker to get the weed.
Oh, okay. That's why I was going to say, unless the whole plot is furthered by them smoking, I don't think I would consider it a stoner movie. But because in Breakfast Club, if you're saying that the plot is central to getting the weed, then yeah, I'll consider it a stoner movie.
Well, yeah, because that's kind of the big deal, is they're trying to avoid Principal...
Oh, I forgot what his name is.
Principal Dickhead to get to that pot. So it all is kind of centered around the caper of trying to get there. That's why I would say it's definitely a stoner movie, but it really just fits that 80s mold. completely. Like, those could be kids at really any high school, I think, across the country. I think that really opened it up a lot for younger generations to see it and be like, okay, I can relate to this.
We can even do this. So if we want to, like, this is going to be cheating a little bit, but I think this helps even more so. So you have like Fast Times that takes place in 82. You have Breakfast Club that takes place, they're time relevant. Like, they take place when they're filmed and everything. Let's jump back from the 90s from a movie and throw Dazed and Confused back before Fast Times.
Because it
and
really
Breakfast
feels
Club.
like it, huh?
I swear to God, when I watch that, man, I completely forget until I actually like notice Ben Affleck and like I'm paying attention. I completely, even the way it's filmed, the graininess and everything,
the film quality seems like
it's perfect. Part of why that movie is so fucking good. But I think if we put that back and establish essentially that like as an accurate representation of the 70s, that's, you know, that's a stoner movie.
Oh, yeah.
It's not, okay,
Yeah.
well, it's not central to the plot, but it's prevalent throughout. Isn't the entire first scene, doesn't it show Mila Jovovich? Isn't she rolling a joint in the car as they pull into the parking lot? On Sweet Emotion? I think she's sitting there rolling one.
No, I think she was rolling one because they were in the back of the Beetle.
No.
Wasn't it?
The first scene where it first comes in.
They're coming down the strip?
No, I mean the first scene where it does Sweet Emotion and it's the judge, the Pontiac judge.
Okay.
And it turns into the parking lot and they're parking for the first day of school. She's riding with her boyfriend, Pickford, and she's in the passenger seat rolling a joint.
Yeah, I think that was probably just 60s culture, though. Like, I get
70s.
Or 70s culture. It's central to the idea of it, but the whole core is like the growing up and moving into high school and the hazing and everything like that. The pod is just kind of like the ancillary character of just what they did.
So you consider it a movie with stoner characters?
I think it is. I that's probably the only one that we'll disagree on, but it feels more like a movie with stoner characters.
Okay. So jumping ahead to TV in the 80s.
Yeah, TV in the 80s was a big Nancy Reagan Just Say No campaign. Like, it played out on so many TV shows. Anything with a family in it.
That was when PSAs started getting really big. And they started they basically were turning these shows into PSAs, a 30-minute long. Archie Bunker's Place. What was it called? Bunker Madness?
And I think it's like his daughter or something like that smoking weed to fit in. I just read a quick synopsis, but Archie Bunker is definitely somebody who is anti-pot. Like, that man certainly had very anti-green views.
Yeah.
This one, we should have been doing some different PSAs for this one, but The Cosby Show.
Theo and the joint. Rudy. I would imagine how Dr. Huxtable was probably so disappointed that he was using something as weak as weed to try to placate these women.
He finds Theo's joint and he looks at him. He's like, how are you supposed to slip this in a woman's drink?
Mm-hmm. Theo, they have to volunteer to smoke this. Let me get me some of my sleepy pills.
You can't hide this in a
I do a horrible Bill Cosby.
I think Bill Cosby.
Do you get it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Bill Cosby's a horrible Bill Cosby. Like, nobody can do a good Bill Cosby. Punky Brewster. I don't have any understanding of that show. I think she was like a pigtailed girl who...
She's an orphan or something like that. They're either an orphan or the butler raises them or something like that. That was big. Mr. Belvedere, who's the boss. There was a big era of butlers raising children.
But again, a show that was definitely on like network TV, and the episode was called Just Say No.
Of course.
So clearly, again, along the Nancy Reagan lines, the war against drugs, it was full-fledged there. Facts of Life, don't know about that show at all.
You don't know about that. You take the good, you take the bad, you take them both. That was like, Facts of Life was the one with all the girls living under the one woman, and it was like a boarding house for girls or something like that. And fuck, what was the woman's name? She was like an old redheaded woman.
That sounds like a terrible show.
I watched a lot of these shows. I'm trying to figure out at what stage of my life I was watching a lot of these shows. This was back when I was like 12 and 13 on like Nick at Night and shit.
What was the one with Kirk Cameron?
That was fuck. It
And
was
Boner.
yeah, it was with Alan Thicke in it.
Yeah.
Full House was Danny Tanner and all them. What the?
There's probably so many people that are just like,
Oh
this is
my
what
God.
this is, you dumbass. I'm sure they had something.
Move forward. I'm finding what this is.
One of my favorite shows that I probably watched too much of and that was near and dear to my heart, Golden Girls even had an episode called Blanche's Little Girl about Blanche finding out that her daughter smoked the
Growing Pains.
Growing Pains, yes,
That's
yes.
right.
Growing Pains. That one was good.
Did they do it? I'm assuming they did a weed episode.
Had to have been. But, excuse me, we're starting to see, even though
Wait, so go back to Golden Girls. Did you watch the episode?
that's one that I'm blanking on, but I'm going to have to go back and watch it.
If anyone, who in the Golden Girls house would just be like, not a big deal. Like, I smell. I thought Blanche might have been the one.
She would have been the only one because there's no way Dorothy Zbornak was getting stoned. She was too straight-laced and a teacher.
Ooh, I see Sophia maybe.
Yeah, Sophia definitely could have smoked back in Sicily. And
I'm trying to remember the name of the village she always says. She always just says Sicily, 1940 or something like that. Yeah.
Sicily, 1940. Rose definitely wasn't getting stoned in St. Olaf. That wasn't happening around there. They might have been eating some mushrooms, but there's no way that St. Olaf people were getting high.
Now let's take the character. Now take the actors. Do we think the actors partook?
Yeah.
Okay.
B. Arthur seems like she
I
strikes
like
me
to
as
imagine that I live in that world that B. Arthur liked to smoke.
Oddly enough, though, I think Blanche would be the one in real life that probably wouldn't. So maybe that's why this episode happened the way that it was.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah,
She
I
just
don't know a
seemed
lot.
like
I
she
don't know a
didn't
lot
have a
about
whole
Rue
lot outside of
McClanahan.
Golden Girls. She was just kind of
That's true.
the catty old coog on Golden Girls. I think I like Golden Girls, and I don't really want to say this, but it's gonna come out. Is there was a little bit of hot to Blanche?
Blanche was like just super slutty, man.
Is that it? Because she
Yeah.
was very old.
She was
And-
she was like one of the younger ones in the house, but yeah, she was
fig-
very
yeah.
sexually active.
Okay, maybe that's what.
I think
got
that's
it
what the
going.
appeal is. Yeah.
Now moving on into the 90s, this is kind of when shit went crazy. Cypress Hill is probably I would put them on my Mount Cushmore of the musical acts that really sort of embraced pop culture. Just everything that they put out. Hits from the Bong was one of their biggest ones, but they
Not even subtle.
no, very in your face.
This just goes to show you the stark difference between like the 70s song titles and stuff like that, 80s song titles, that kind of stuff. And just the 90s were like, nope, we're out of fucks. Go straight to it.
Yeah,
Hits from the Bong.
this ain't Don't Step on the Grass, Sam. This is Hits from the Bong. But Cypress Hill played such a big part in just the marijuana movement in rap and hip hop. And they actually are one of the only musical acts that is banned from playing Saturday Night Live. And they're banned from playing Saturday Night Live because the guitarist lit a joint on stage while they were playing. Which seems like a move now that's not shocking, but back
Just
in
be
the
hitting
90s,
pen. Oh yeah.
I'm sure it was huge. Like that was a very big
Bigger
deal.
than the time Ashley Simpson got caught lip syncing.
Yeah, I'd say that was a bigger scandal. But just stuff like that. They've worked so much to try to not only through their music, but they worked with this guy named Jack Herrera. And Jack,
Is that where the strain comes from?
Yep, Jack Herrera is where it came from. He founded I forgot the exact what it stands for, but he founded hemp. And
He
it's
founded hemp.
it's help end marijuana prohibition.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So it's an acronym for help end marijuana prohibition.
You got to make sure you lead with that. People are going to think
he created hemp.
created hemp.
But he was very active trying to legislate and trying to make some stuff happen. And I completely forgot to mention this. I would be kind of remiss if I didn't, because we're talking about 3 to 4 different kinds of pop culture things. Back in the 70s and 80s, magazines were a big deal. Like that was a big
Publications
form of
were
entertainment.
huge.
And High Times was actually founded in 1974.
Nice.
So High Times magazine has published over 500 issues, and it was founded in they published over 500 issues since 1974. So still in circulation today. They've pushed it back, I believe, to they do it every 3 months or quarterly instead of monthly. But still around in some forms. They created something called the Cannabis Cup. Are you
I
familiar?
actually like to try to seek out their strains from previous winners and try those out.
Yeah, and it was founded all the way back in 1988 by one of the editors.
Before that, because you just said that it was around since 74.
The Cannabis Cup has been around
okay,
since 88.
okay.
So 14 years after the magazine started, they started this Cannabis Cup. It usually takes place in November in Amsterdam. They hold them in America now. The first one in America was 2010, so fairly recent, but in the grand scheme of things, they started in 88, and it took till 2010 to get one here in America.
How long does that, like, how long does it take to judge that? Because you have to smoke it and, like, smoke enough to where you can feel everything and then give it time and then have that completely worn off.
Yeah, man, it's not like
until the
tasting
next one.
wine. Like you're going to be
can't-
living in that
you can't-
high.
Yeah, you can't put water in your mouth and spit it out to, like, clear the taste. So
They got to have a cop walk by every time they smoke one just to lighten them back up and bring them back to zero.
I don't know, man. Like, it takes a week to test, like, one strain completely.
I think they mostly judge them now on like coloration, on crystal formation.
I think it maybe has to
taste.
pop visually before they'll even try it.
Yeah.
It's gotta have some umami factor to get it in the door.
Yep, you smoke and you eat with your eyes 1st apparently. But we have an actual, basically as a worldwide thing now, an international competition for who can grow the best marijuana. That to me seems like a full, like just you've accepted it, you've agreed to it. Like we need to keep pushing to make this legal because how many states, how many people that grow? I'm sure the people that are really great at growing probably find legal states to start working on their working their craft. But how many more minds could we have on this if this was completely legal?
We had that conversation all the way back in literally episode 1 a year ago. Is where would we be today, as far as the progression and advancement of all products that could have been used from hemp, advancements in medical marijuana and like stuff that could have been pulled out of it, terpenes for. If it was being used prior to opiates being created, would opiates have even been created? We can go down that. That's too long for a road to go down. But like, yeah, what could have, would have, should have happened?
Well, it's not crazy, especially now because the quickest leap that you could make is how would opiates and pain pills have taken off if marijuana was legal then?
That's what I'm saying.
Like
Tinctures would have already been created out of just like separating the THC had there been research done into it.
Yeah.
Here's a question. So, you know, when they cross strains and everything
great hybrids.
to create hybrids, what if you just took, do you think sometimes when they're making concentrate, they just take the concentrate of the two strains they're wanting to make into the hybrid and just mix them together in the cartridge?
No, because anything that's a hybrid like that, you have to create the plant and then use the extract.
I hope
from the
so. I
plant.
just described a really lazy way of doing it. I hope there's not just someone being like, you want
like
a little...
like a
making
peanut butter and jelly.
Like making a fucking suicide at the gas station when you just put your drink under and you... Like, can you just
Train
mix
wreck,
me?
White Widow, Pineapple Express.
I
Yes.
want a cup, a few drops of everything. Can you imagine that? How long is that going to be before that's a real thing?
I
You know how
don't
they
think
have
it
to
would
make your
work
own-
that way.
Before they, the make your own fragrance. Put some fucking sandalwood in there.
I'm more of a. I'm cool that the hybrids are happening. I think we're getting some fun stuff, but I don't like the fact that I think older, like tried and true strains that have traveled and stood the test of time.
It's
are getting-
overwhelming.
Yeah, we're
seeing all of the things and then seeing how similar the effects that they're supposed to have. But then, like, I'm literally at the point now where I'm just like, just find like four strains. And then I see something, I'll pull up Leafly and I'll see something new. I'll be like, oh, look at that.
That's the old pot smoker you're just born into old pot smoker because you see shit
I got
like
a old pothole.
yeah, you're like the old man yelling at clouds when you see do-si-dos, and I'm like, do-si-dos, we can't be naming this shit after Girl Scout
Don't
cookies.
be talking. No, Do-si-dos is amazing.
But we can't be doing that. Just let's keep something the same names or even normal names. I'll take Alaskan Thunderfuck over Dosey Does any day because I know what I'm getting with that.
Well, one of the best ones is Gelato. That's not a tough name.
Gelato's like the best kind of ice cream.
That's true.
But yeah, just even before Jack Herrera, there was something called NORML that came out, the National Organization for Reform of Marijuana Laws. It was established in 1970, so even before that. NORML's mission is it supports the removal of all penalties for the private possession, responsible use of marijuana by adults, including cultivation for personal use and casual nonprofit transfers of small amounts, so you can give it to your buddies after you grow it.
So the same stuff we're still fighting for today.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things where this has been getting worked on since the 70s, and to some capacity, it wasn't a big deal because I want to say the biggest contribution, like the biggest contributor to NORML that they ever got was Hugh Hefner was given like $100,000 a year. So legally, I don't know how much money they had to like get into Congress and try to fight
That
this.
doesn't sound like much.
No, especially
think-
not for the
yeah.
government. But
That'll get you some flyers, but that's not going to get you much
Yeah.
past that.
and Cypress Hill pairing up and kind of working with Jack Herrera and learning from him was kind of like the pop culture side and the legal side starting to come together, the governmental side starting to come together to try to make a change happen.
Yeah.
After that, again, pretty straightforward. Redman, How High?
Redman's such a better actor, and not even saying he's a great actor, but he's so... Wait, no.
Method Man's better than Redman.
Method Man's the taller one, right?
Method Man was Silas.
Okay, yes,
botanist.
sorry. Method Man is a much, much better actor than Redman.
But Redman's so much funnier.
No, he is not.
Dude, Bart Fart.
Okay, can we just go? Okay.
We see it popping off into kind of grunge type rock era. Sublime, Smoke Two Joints, which was a cover of an older song. I think it was a Peter.
I don't think Sublime ever got
Tosh.
away from this.
No.
That wasn't an error for Sublime. That's just Sublime's music.
Yeah, and that really, it kind of is like sort of like a reggae punk. I don't even really know how to describe it, but it was great. Like, I love Sublime.
Yeah.
I think they're fantastic.
You know what you're gonna if you put in Sublime, you know what you're gonna get.
Yeah, you're not getting a tearjerker by any means. High Till I Die from Tupac. Da 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 da. Fantastic song.
Champagne Supernova.
Yeah, Oasis. And even in country, Looking Back Texas, Waylon and Willie and the Boys. Mm-hmm. That song was about smoking weed. It was a country song.
Oh yeah, I mean Willie Nelson, Merle Haggard, Johnny Cash actually had a song about weed. Hank Williams Jr. sang about it, and then there's a ton of current. I think actually here you go. 2017 study shows country music includes the most drug references over hip hop.
Oh, that's not shocking at all. If you're out there really living in the country, that's got to be boring as shit. You got to have some sort of common ground.
I've thought about this probably more than I should have. I guess it also helps growing up in a small town. You've got to be high while you're plowing fields, right?
Got to.
Just while you're literally just driving a tractor in a straight line, very slow, you just have to be high listening to music.
If you're older than like age 12 to where that like funness of that wears off, you got to be high.
The novelty of driving a vehicle.
Yeah. So anything before a license, I'm sure, once that fun wears off, you have to have something else to occupy your
So
mind.
we're in agreement. That's like 100% certainty.
Yeah, I don't know how. It's like Harold and Kumar, the second one, when they run into David Koechner and he's out in the woods with his smoking hot wife, and he invites him for dinner, and he goes, "But we got to get high first." And he pulls out the humidor that's full of joints. He's like, I think Kumar goes, "I didn't realize you guys did this." He goes, "Have you ever tried farming not high?"
It's like, that's what he's like, it's
Fucking
boring
terrible.
as shit. That's right.
So yeah, I assume that country music, I mean, this is a natural handshake, but it seems like they, besides Willie and Waylon and those guys, they were kind of the last ones onto it. But back into 90s stuff, Dr. Dre, still DRE, fantastic. Just really like a I don't really know how you put it. This was just the era for this. The Up in Smoke tour was going on during this time and into the 2000s. So you have Snoop.
That was
you
a
have-
tour that went on like every year for a while, wasn't it?
Yeah, Snoop, Dr. Dre, Mac 10, all those dudes were showing up, and all it was just getting high on stage and rapping all the time. This one, I was surprised that it was this long ago, but Ben Harper, Burn One Down, was in the 90s. Ben Harper's still good today. Like,
Oh yeah.
that's a hell of a career.
Ben Harper's one of those musicians that when he was like 20, you thought he was 40
Yeah, okay.
and everything. And so I think that's helped him kind of stretch that career out. But Ben Harper makes some excellent fuck music.
Hey, yeah, really anything. I mean, I don't know if I'd mix business with pleasure, because if I hear one outside, like in public, and I'm a little bit randy about it, that's going to be rough.
You just deal with it.
But he's great. He's still, like I say, he's still making stuff today. Then you have Snoop. Next episode, I believe Gin and Juice was around this time too. So smoking on that endo, sipping on gin and juice. Had completely rap culture had embraced
Hey.
marijuana smoking at this point. You got to smoke the weed every day. Movies. The list is just huge. Dazed and Confused, like we talked about earlier. Did you have any other music or no?
No, I think that's good for music. 90s, probably like I missed with the 80s. Tom Petty. I think I probably already mentioned that.
Yeah, staying power. He's still there. These guys are still going.
I think there is something to that.
Yeah,
Maybe they're not drinking as much. Maybe if you're smoking, you're not drinking as much. And that kind of helps with and you're kind of staying away maybe if you're not going into the harder shit.
You think Keith Richards smoked so much weed that he just smoked himself beyond an expiration date?
He
like
pickled
they do
himself.
jerky?
He
Yeah.
pickled himself with the weed, and so now nothing can actually get in. It's hardened all of his internal organs. So when he does cocaine, like hardly any of that coke's getting in. The rest of it's just going out the other nostril.
I don't have to explain this to you, sir, but you're actually so drugged up that the drugs aren't doing anything. We can't tell you you're dead, but also we can't tell you you're alive.
No, nothing else on movies.
Okay. Or on
Music, yeah.
Yeah, movies, like we mentioned, Dazed and Confused. Friday, another just absolute fucking classic with Craig and Day Day, and everybody was just an awesome Ice Cube movie. Get a little Pauly Shore in there with some Biodome. Mm-hmm. Biodome was absolutely great. And probably my personal favorite stoner film, actually probably second behind Up in Smoke, but Half Baked. Half Baked it's a Christmas movie. I watch it every year on 420 without fail, whether it's in the morning, afternoon, or night.
See, I watched that movie first without having ever smoked before. Uh-huh. And I think I've watched it too many times having never have smoked. And then saw it after, and I actually don't know if I've watched it stoned yet.
You got to, man. It's all the just
I know
great
there's a
little
lot of
jokes.
lots of rites of passage. Oh, Bill and Ted.
Were they stoners?
Oh,
though?
God,
I
come
mean,
on.
There weren't any references to pot. Really,
My
in
name is Ted Theodore Logan, and I am Bill S. Preston Esquire. We are wild stallions. Come on, man.
But there wasn't a whole lot of marijuana references.
I'm telling you right now, they were basically like Jeff Spicoli. That's exactly how they acted. They were burnouts.
Yeah, I'll give it.
But they just
to
wanted
you.
everyone to be cool to each other, be excellent to each other. They had a great message. But yes, Bill and Ted are, yes.
Okay, I can go with that. Detroit Rock City falls into this great stoner characters, but not a pop movie. Mm-hmm. You seen it?
Yes.
It's if you haven't seen it, it's another just
Always
really
weird seeing Edward Furlong and stuff. That's not Terminator.
yeah. But it's something that may have flown under the radar. I guess I didn't know about it till probably like 15 years ago, but it's a very good movie. Mm. Yeah, they just you start to see the expansion in. It's still comedies. I don't think there's ever really been a serious weed movie to date, but it was all fun stuff. And
It's because you don't have to. Weed Bear. It's not fucking Cocaine Bear. If it's Weed Bear, the bear just gets fucking tired.
yeah, there's gonna be not a lot of action.
There's
in
gonna
weed
no
movies.
action. It's a movie about marijuana. All that's gonna happen is the most action is you're gonna run out of fucking snacks,
Pineapple
and someone's gonna have
Express
to
is
try
the
to
most
work their fucking
action-packed.
yes, and
Yeah.
someone's gonna have to work their phone to DoorDash something. That's gonna be the drama. Like, I can't order.
Wi-Fi's out.
TV is where the 90s really nailed marijuana on the head, really pinned it down and sent a great message.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't know. There's some stuff that I like, old niche TV shows. Like, you remember Dinosaurs?
I got it written down right here, man.
Okay.
Here's the thing about TV in the 90s. This was when Dare became a thing. Maybe late 80s, early 90s. I remember Dare was a thing when I was going through school. Definitely like in the mid 90s.
Yeah, Dare happened. Dare was in part because of
The Reagan shit, right? Or it was one of the Bushes?
It was in part of the Iran-Contra thing. That's what it came about.
Was that
the
okay?
guy who got Dare like dedicated to him or whatever died during a raid during Iran-Contra.
Okay. So what? Drug awareness,
I don't know what it stands for.
resource,
I have an
education,
idea
or something.
what the R stands for, but I'm not going to say it.
So, hey man, I actually gave a speech for Dare. So you can obviously tell that it stuck. It may have delayed it for a couple years, maybe.
Do you remember
If
signing
anything,
the contracts?
the only thing it delayed was probably me getting pussy for
Yeah.
multiple years not doing drugs.
Good chance. You remember signing the contracts, right, though? Because you had to
Yeah,
sign a contract or else you wouldn't get your red ribbon.
Yeah, I'm assuming I did.
What kind of bullshit is that they're trying to get children
It's not
into
legally
contracts?
binding. You're a minor, man.
Brainwashing.
So out of all of these, there was one show that actually kind of went a different way about it that stands out was Roseanne. And that whole thing was they found a bag of weed in, what was his David? Johnny Galecki.
The
David.
daughter's husband?
David, yeah.
Yeah,
They
sure.
found a bag of weed in his room, and it was this big thing that it would normally be on a 90s sitcom talking about whose it is, which kid it belongs to.
Wasn't it the dude from Big Bang Theory's room?
Johnny Galecki.
Is that
Yeah,
that's who it was?
yeah.
Yeah, so
And then come to find out, Dan finally remembers that it's his bag of weed that him and Roseanne had bought prior to having kids and everything. And then they all go in the bathroom and not Becky, what's the sister's name?
Darlene?
The Roseanne's sister. Is it Aunt Becky? Or am I thinking, confusing Full House?
It might be Becky. I don't know. I didn't watch it.
Anyway, they go in there and try to smoke in the bathroom. And they find out the 20-year-old weed doesn't fucking get you
Really?
high. Yeah.
You don't say.
Then you had, I think Saved by the Bell might have been my favorite marijuana-centric episode from the 90s. You had Johnny Dakota, movie star, coming to a California high school, looking to film a public service announcement about not doing drugs. Zach sees his opportunity. He gets the gang together, Lisa and Screech and AC and a couple guys, to sing a non-drug rap or something on the stairs of the main hallway Bayside, convinces Johnny Dakota to use their school for the public service announcement. Well, about halfway through the episode, as Johnny and Zach are getting all chummy, because of course Zach wants to use Johnny's movie star status to finger bang as many women as possible.
Good on him.
Have you seen the Zach Morris's trash stuff?
No, I've heard about it. I liked Saved by the Bell, but Saved by the Bell was almost too out there for me.
No. What I'm saying is watch it, and it literally just makes it look like, without having to like move anything around, that Zach Morris is like literally the biggest piece of shit in the world.
I could say that.
During this episode, he tries to basically take Kelly, who's his ex-girlfriend, and like forces her to like, hey, you got to get with Johnny and get me in good with him and everything. Well, they find a joint at Bayside, and they think they're at risk of having the PSA taken away, and they won't be able to act in it. So they throw it away or flush it. And then Johnny invites him after they get done filming or the night before they're going to film to a party at his house. He's inviting high schoolers over here. They should be fucking grateful they're getting to come. Oh, I didn't say that. Well, he is actually hitting on a high schooler. So
Pervert.
Regardless, during this party, he takes a hit off a joint. Zach comes in, is basically like, come on, Kelly, we're getting out of here. And then basically proceed to throw away the PSA opportunity. But I mean, hey, it's not like the guy wasn't in his own home.
He was enjoying himself while others were
An
around.
employed actor in his own home Listen,
He bought that weed with his own money.
yeah. And guess what? He's out here telling kids not to smoke it. True, he was trying to hit on a high schooler, so I'd like to imagine that he's no older than 20 years old, but chances are he was probably 27, 28, maybe even early 30s.
And what are we taught as adults to do? Tell children, do as I say, not as I do.
Exactly.
It's just how it goes down.
But just the way that they did it at the end where they're like, oh, I'm trying to remember how it goes into it. It's like, what words do you think about when you think of marijuana? And then it goes to each of the characters and they all say one word. And it's like stupid, reckless, dangerous. And then it goes to Zach and he's like, say nope to dope or some shit. It was very memorable, apparently.
Not just bad. Just bad TV. Ever since I saw the episode, I think it was one of them got addicted to no-dos.
Oh, Jesse got addicted, to caffeine pills.
Come on. We can't be doing that. That was way too early for that stuff.
I'm so scared. Jesus fucking Christ.
But somehow they figured out how to put a pot PSA in the hit show Dinosaurs.
This is probably the best execution of it, because Home Improvement didn't do a good job.
No, that one, I don't even really remember that one.
Home Improvement basically...
Tim Allen, a guy that got caught trafficking cocaine, giving a real hard speech on marijuana.
Yeah, it basically made it out to where it almost compared and made it seem like being an alcoholic was more favorable to smoking pot. And then there was another horrible comparison or basic analogy that was a bunch of bullshit. But yeah, Dinosaurs.
Makes sense. Totally relevant. These are dinosaurs, so why wouldn't they have pot smoking issues too?
For those of you not aware what Dinosaurs was, it was a show in the early 90s, basically featuring actors in giant rubber dinosaur animatronic suits.
For the longest time in my life, I thought this was just something that I had made up. Like, I actually had to Google it one day to be like, this show was real, right?
Yes. I'm like, I didn't remember this baby dinosaur with this not the mama gimmick and everything. That had to have been real. My brain wouldn't have come up with that.
This was the Berenstain Bears thing. Like, I didn't think that it was real. I thought it might have been like a spinoff of the Flintstones or something, but no, very real. I even tried to go back and watch a couple episodes. Not the worst thing I've seen.
No, not the best thing.
No, definitely not.
Robbie, the hip, older son dinosaur, finds a new leaf that makes him feel really happy, and he brings it home. And then he gets his dad and his sister to try it too, right? And then they basically all get hooked on this happy leaf. And then it ends up they end up running out of their stash or something like that and going through withdrawals. And then the mom says some weird comment to him or something like that about needing to go to rehab or something like that. But basically,
King of the Hill did this with smoking cigarettes and they executed it way better.
That was at least doing something useful.
Yeah.
And then they actually had a look to camera in their mechanical dinosaur costumes, full on marijuana PSA about how dangerous it was. And then
now we get to the good stuff.
I was going to say, all it took was 6 years, and then we get that 70s show.
Huge hit. One of my favorite series ever. Just you're hanging out down in the basement with your neighbor who's your crush, who then becomes your girlfriend.
The ultimate girl next door, Donna Pinciotti.
Huh?
I said the ultimate girl next door, Donna Pinciotti.
Yeah, she seemed a little manly to me, but...
Well, it was only because of the size disparity between her and Eric.
That, and then you're also comparing her to Mila Kunis.
That's true.
Which doesn't help.
She's just a very small individual.
But for its time, I remember it growing up. I mean, I think we started watching it probably from the first season. Mm-hmm. I think my brother may have said something about it, and we started watching it. And we even watched this as a family. My parents would watch that 70s show with us.
Well, it was also subtle about it. You never saw them smoking or even lighting anything. I think you saw them light, and it was always incense, wasn't it?
Yeah, when they would do the circle scenes, it was always the smoke blowing around there. But
yeah, but you never saw how they were actually burning it or anything like that. The only thing you ever saw them light was incense.
I also think, too, it's the only time you ever see marijuana on the show, during an episode, is in a brown bag, a brown paper bag. I don't think you ever see the actual...
The only time that it ever even gets close is when Red takes it out when they go up to the cabin, and it's green, but it's really oregano.
Uh-huh.
And so I think because it was oregano, that's why they were
They
able to show
actually
it.
showed
'Cause-
it that one time.
Yeah, because even when it gets to the later seasons, when Leo, Tommy Chong,
Yeah.
leaves him the film canister and everything, and it's just full, you just see it in almost like a Pulp Fiction briefcase. Like you just see the light shine on their face when they open it.
And I want to say coming out of the photo hut too, it was in the little
Photo canisters or something like that. Yeah.
photo canisters back before we had like pot shops and weed shops. That's just where you kept your pot.
Yeah.
And so you had to either know somebody that was really into taking pictures or like go try to buy
Try to
film.
raid your parents' old like photo album stash. Be like, do we have any of these?
You guys
What
need
do
to
you
go to
need
the
'em
1 hour
for?
photo? Perfect.
Spices.
Let's go.
No, but I mean that '70s show was a show that was on Fox, had a huge following, still has a huge following on rewatch and streaming, and I mean that right there, the almost every episode had something related to that. It was never the point of the show, but even some episodes completely focused on them refilling the stash or one of them getting in trouble for it or something like that. But
Even today, the spinoff they've done, the remake, that 90s show, I think it was either the first or second episode, it was them losing their bag of weed that was stashed there from, like, I think the 70s show days. Like, something about Kelso's kid says something about, hey, my dad says that there's a stash down here.
yeah. Okay, so Freaks and Geeks, did Freaks and Geeks take place in '99 as well?
99 and 2000.
No. When was the show supposed to take place?
I think it was earlier on. I think it was a throwback, but it wasn't a throwback to the 70s.
No. It was supposed to be like a late '80s, early '90s, maybe even a little bit.
Somewhere around
Okay.
there. Not like Golden Years or...
My point on
Wonder
these
Years.
two shows is because Freaks and Geeks, I think Freaks and Geeks falls into the category of shows with stoners. I think that '70s show can be either or.
Yeah.
I think it goes either way. It's one of those rare ones. I think you get away with these shows though later in the '90s because they're not taking place currently.
Well,
You can always point to them being like, well, that's just how it was in the '70s, or Freaks and Geeks being like, well, that's how it was in the late '80s or something like that. You never have to worry about it being effective of like the time you're living in right now. That's why when something gets shown in a show that's supposed to be taking place modern day and it's really crazy, it's so like, because it's happening now. It gives you that feeling.
it was a different time back then.
Exactly. And so like with that '70s show, maybe part of the reason why it wasn't such a big deal and you didn't have you never heard anyone advocate against that '70s show.
No.
I never even heard anyone say, I'm not allowed to watch that '70s show.
I mean, like I say, my parents watched it because everybody had a character that they could relate to.
Yes.
Parents even saw Red and Kitty, and they're like, "This makes sense. We have."
I
a Bob
identify
in
with
our
Red
life."
and Kitty now when I watch stuff and I'm just like, Jesus Christ. But I think that's what it was, is you can point back and be like, this is just how it was back then. This isn't how things work now.
No, there's some. I don't know if it's necessarily a conspiracy theory. It's been proven, but supposedly the only reason that Freaks and Geeks only got one season, which Freaks and Geeks was a great show.
Yeah, it's
still
got a
very
huge cult
funny.
following.
It's awesome. But in the last episode, Jason Segel's character pressures one of the girls into smoking for the first time. And I guess the executives may have felt uncomfortable with the direction the show was going after that happened.
Yeah.
And that's why they never got a second season.
That's right. I think I heard that too.
So it kind of is a weird...
It wasn't subtle.
Yeah.
You saw the weed, you saw it being lit, you saw someone smoking it, and there was pressure behind it. So I don't see why that would force you to cancel a show or anything like that. But it was a great show. I just wonder if it would be as revered as it is had it got maybe another couple seasons and tapered off.
No, I think that's kind of the stars that burn the brightest burn out the fastest. Like, we don't know what season.
Because your
2 or
imagination
3.
is always it went out like this, like what it could have been so great. Mm-hmm. Chances
Especially
are it's
with-
going to be a turd, but
Well, those guys' characters start taking off too, and they start to get more popular. Is it going to be the same cast? Is it going to? There's a million different questions to ask.
yeah.
But it was still a weird portrayal that kind of ended the '90s with still sort of like a negative connotation towards pot. But you have the thriving '70s show, which is like pushing it into the next decade. I think they had how many seasons of it?
9.
9.
Yeah.
So yeah, they
Maybe
were
like
into.
8. 9th might have been the shitty one, that didn't have Topher Grace and a bunch of people in it.
We crossed into the millennium with funny pot on TV.
Did you forget about one of the most beloved marijuana-based characters introduced in the late 90s?
I thought it was 2000.
Who?
Tally?
Was it 2000?
I think it was 2000.
Okay,
I think it was like 2001.
Are we ready to enter the new millennium?
Yeah.
Okay, I got to take a pee first.
Okay.
And then we get to tally, man. All right, while we take a break from class and take care of some business, you can also take care of some business.
If you don't follow us on Instagram or Twitter already, our Instagram handle is Historically High Pod. That's Historically High POD. And our Twitter is Historically High. That's Historically HI.
All right, and back to our show.
This is where things fell apart because there were so many movies where I just kept forgetting them. Like 2000s, there were so many stoner movies.
Yeah, I know I missed a whole bunch on here. Well, here's the thing. As we get into the 2000s, I think, okay, if you had to like pick which side of the fence you're on when you're stoned, if someone is sitting there and you have to watch a movie, is it a stoner movie or is it a movie that you enjoy watching while stoned?
I would say just stoner movie.
You would prefer that. You pick that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It depends on how high you are. I mean, your surroundings really dictate everything. Do you have food there? Is that, like you were talking about earlier, am I going to have to worry about DoorDash or ordering a pizza or making dinner? Like, if I can just get real stoned and just shut it off, it's a stoner movie. If I still have to do other things, I would rather have something I'm kind of enthralled by. Mm-hmm. And I definitely think there's like a third category in movies where it's like stoner movies, movies with notable stoners, and then just great movies to watch while stoned.
Yeah.
Because there certainly are a lot of those.
I think I lean more toward the movies that I love to watch while stoned that let me watch a movie differently than I've watched it previous.
Yeah, and there's a lot of old ones. I blame streaming for this, but back when you just had cable and you were high and you were flipping around and you caught like the Replacements on TBS, you were getting sucked into Keanu and the Replacements high.
Oh yeah,
like that wasn't. It was a choice you made because it was on and it was going to be the best thing
TNT?
to watch. Yeah. Yep. It's that kind of stuff. Like nowadays with streaming, you can queue up goddamn near anything that you want.
The worst thing
anytime.
to do is smoke and then go try to pick what you're
Yeah.
gonna watch. You have to already have something queued up. That's probably the biggest waste of time. If you take anything away from this podcast,
Always have a plan.
have it queued up what you want to watch prior to going and smoking. All right, 2000s. This is 23 years ago, man. I want to say current, but it's still not fucking current. It's crazy. Music. You gotta start it out with Afro Man. La da 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 da. La da da.
Afro Man, I'm glad to hear is still going very strong.
I think they have a very niche following.
It's just one man.
Oh, it's the Afro Man now.
Yep. But he lives in like some.
Is it now down to just the guy that was like, "Why, man"? Is it now down to just
I think
him?
he did all the voices.
He just overlaid them.
Yeah.
How would he do that in concert?
I don't know.
So exhausting.
He's got to have a backing track for it.
Why, man? Yeah.
He
just goes
probably
over
has-
on each side of his face.
He's got to have hype man or something that are doing it up there. But I want to say he lives in some rural Midwest town or some shit like that. And he's actually being sued by the police department because they raided his house and he used some of the film from the raid in a music video. And so they're like, you can't use our
This
likeness.
is on my Ring doorbell, man. I can use this. Oh,
Afro Man's the guy. He's the weed smoker's anthem. There's
Afro Man.
there's literally like even if it's just one part that you relate to in Afro Man's because I got high, you relate to that whole entire song. You could see how the rest of it goes.
Here's a question for you to fall in kind of with the movie aspect of the stoner movies with stoners. I feel like music that sounds really good when you're stoned is superior to the music about getting stoned. I think you can somehow hit a sweet spot where some of the songs about getting stoned are really, really good. And it kind of like, was that a Venn diagram? Where
Yeah.
they meet the two circles? But I think if you're making a song about smoking, it's not going to be as good as a song that you didn't have to write about that, but you wrote while smoking. Does that make sense? Am I getting too far into the weeds here?
No, I think that...
Like imagine like Immigrant Song, Led Zeppelin. That has nothing to do with... it might make a reference to it. I can't remember the exact words and everything like that. Or, War Pigs by Black Sabbath or a whole, think of a ton of the most well-known songs, Brown Sugar, Rolling Stones, whatever you want to use as your example, that's not related to smoking weed, but those songs sound so good while you're smoking it.
Yeah, I think it definitely kind of lends back to Cypress Hill and just the way that they did their music. Not to go back to them again, but there was more like jazz and excitement in the instrumentals and things that are going on behind the music to where it becomes a little bit more enthralling to listen to it because you're listening to it for the words and for the lyrics, but you're also like, it's a very catchy tune. There's a lot of different aspects and elements and instruments that go into the backing track that kind of attracts you to it.
I think what I'm more getting at, kind of in a weird roundabout way, is it seems like as the music progresses and becomes more just not like public, but more like in your face about marijuana, it's we're getting more songs that are just directly about that, like that act.
I think it depends on the genre too, because there's plenty of very good rap songs about weed that still, to this day, I mean, they're still making new good rap songs.
Yeah. I guess there's also a lot more music.
Yeah.
So you're going to get more bands singing about that might have just like a one-off hit or something like that.
There was this weird phase in the early 2000s too. You've heard of Cottonmouth Kings? Mm-hmm. They hit this weird stride of like high school kids that weren't old enough to realize it was bad music, but were still getting high and been like, these guys are singing.
Like Crazy Town?
Huh?
Like, is that like Crazy Town?
Buckcherry?
No, Crazy Town. That sounds like the same kind of music that like people that like Crazy Town would listen to. Remember that song, like "Come My Lady, Come Come My Lady"?
Oh, I forgot about them.
Yeah, that seems like the same type of people that make music like that.
Yeah, it could be, except for Cottonmouth Kings was like too fast. Like it was almost like electronica type music that happened with rapping over the top of it. Just very bad music. But when you were a high school kid and they came out and you were smoking pot, you're like, let's listen to some pot smoking songs. Cottonmouth Kings somehow always made it onto the stereo. And they're not good. They weren't ever good.
Well, hey, they can't all be first round draft picks.
No. These guys like made their career not being a first round draft pick.
We get Never Smoke Weed with Willie Again by Toby. We get Hash Pipe by Weezer.
Big time Toby breaking out that song, and it's a great song. I feel like I keep saying the words great song over and over again, but you get...
Great song! Just get a sound word for you.
Toby did a lot of kind of gimmicky stuff. This one felt more like the Toby that I think we would get on a normal basis. I don't know if he's out there putting boots and asses on the 4th of July and all that kind of stuff in real life, but I think that him and Willie Nelson smoked before plenty of times.
That's the thing. We're still getting music from Willie.
Yeah. We got Whiskey, Weed, and Women from Hank Jr. or Hank the Third. Mumford and Sons.
Was Little Lion Man about smoking weed?
I'm not a big Mumford and Sons fan,
Neither
but
am I.
it was a very popular track that I had seen. But there's kind of the weird genre jumping is like weed's not really outside of any genre of music. It can always be shoehorned in there somehow.
It's not beholden to anything. It's just an opening for creativity. It doesn't make you write a certain type of music. It just makes you open your possibilities to whatever you want to make, I guess.
Every genre has a song about pussy, I think. So it's probably just one and the same.
Yeah.
You write about your passions.
Okay, what do we got for movies?
Movies was huge. And just before talking about any of the other ones, maybe spawned one of the greatest documentaries ever made. Super Jaime, Doug Benson. Mm-hmm. When he reenacts Super Size Me, except for he does it with pot.
Wait, doesn't he go sober for...
He goes sober for 30 days.
Okay.
He does his baseline with his doctor. They do all the testing and everything like that. And then he does nothing but smoke weed for 30 days. Like, the amount of marijuana that they show him consuming on a daily basis, following him around.
Isn't he just carrying around one of those volcano bags?
Yeah.
With him?
That was the first time that I'd ever seen one of those, and they were so cool.
I think the first time I saw that was... Fuck. Where did I see that the first time? It might have actually been that. Yeah. It was either that or This Is the End. I couldn't remember which one I saw first.
Super Jaime was, for everything that Morgan Spurlock did for McDonald's and tried to sully their questionable name and reputation, all Doug Benson did in this movie was prove that it's a great life to live, but it's almost too much to do it in that. But he really, and this is one man, and probably from the get-go 30 days sober, not a super in-shape man, but none of his vitals really changed.
No.
Like, it didn't have really
Coke.
any effects.
Yeah. It just mellows you out.
There's one scene where he goes in because he does like a psych evaluation, 30 days sober and then 30 days on. And he's talking to the psychiatrist. I think it's like his first day in smoking. And he goes, "So, Doug, what's changed?" And he goes, "Everything's a little bit cooler now."
Yeah.
Like he's like, everything's a little bit brighter, a little bit more fun. I find myself being more inquisitive. It's like, yeah, that's what he's describing how I feel when I smoke pot.
I was going to say, that's exactly what like Steve Harvey would point at the board and be like, describe the feeling you feel on marijuana. I feel chill. Show me chill.
Family Feud all over the place. But yeah, I don't know how widely seen it was, but I kind of felt like it was a...
Here's the thing. None of these things are competing for the Academy Award.
No.
Or anything like that.
No, this wasn't being showed at Cannes.
No. But these are also very, like, fun, popular movies. This is where you get... And not a lot of big thinkers.
No.
These aren't going to be movies you're going to sit down and really ponder about for the next couple days.
No. That's a perfect segue into the first one on there.
Dude, Where's My Car?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Not a real big thinker.
The thing about Dude, Where's My Car is, like, watching the movie, it's so fucking ridiculous that if you try to think about it, you'll get lost. Because it makes no sense. Chester and... What is it? Chester and... Fuck. It's not Charlie.
I thought it, like, rhymed with it.
I don't know.
To put it in the easiest way possible, it's Stifler and Kelso.
Yeah, it's Stifler and Kelso, and they lose their car, and they have to retrace what they did the night before to try to find it.
They had a wild night.
And it involves some aliens. So that's... Spoiler alert if you haven't seen it. They save the universe. Do you want to talk about this second one? I feel like I'm not going to sit here. It just wasn't my cup of tea.
I just want to know why.
I told you.
Is it because you're not as familiar with the aspects of a black comedy, maybe?
That's also probably a decent assessment of it.
And how high we see the rags to riches story of two young black men from the inner city.
I understand. Listen.
Who make it at Harvard.
They make
the
it
whitest
okay.
institutions.
I know. I understand that that's where it's a fish out of, it's a fish out of water situation. They shouldn't be there, but they're there. They're looking to shake stuff up. And they do. They shake shit up like crazy. They're just very mean to everybody while they're doing it. And one of the biggest things that smoking weed does for you is it makes you nicer and more understanding to people. So I feel like it sends a very mixed message. Plus, here's the thing, is like they go for a semester and then they just like, that's the end. Like it based on what I saw, I don't think they're going to be able to stay there.
They pass their
the semester tests.
Yeah. So they're on to the next semester.
What are they? They're out of that weed.
You don't know. Ivory could be coming back somehow. So just a very simple explanation.
I watched it.
For people that haven't seen
I'm not
how
judging.
high...
I'm not judging you. I'm not judging you. I'm just saying it's not my... I probably have something that I like to watch high that you don't.
Okay. Yeah, just a quick rundown. Method Man and Redman, both members of the Wu-Tang Clan. Nothing to fuck with. They are two inner city kids that take their I think Redman's mom calls them the THCs.
They call in the movie. They call them the THCs. It's like the ACTs and the SATs.
Yeah. Before Method Man takes the test, his best friend Ivory.
It's not his best friend. Jesus, it's a guy that really likes him. He's not too crazy about him.
He said he'd jump out in front of a bus for him.
And he said he would do anything for him.
That's best friend.
It's Ivory's best friend might be Silas. Silas doesn't view it the same way. Again,
Silas,
another part of this.
Yeah. He's a bit of a botanist. He's learned to help make plants for sort of an Eastern medicine style healing. He gives Ivory a little bit of weed so he can get high with this chick that he matched with on maybe the first Tinder ever. Ivory dies, and Method Man wants to show some love for his boy, so he mixes the ashes into a marijuana plant. And it turns out when you smoke Ivory, Ivory comes back to you as a ghost. He helps Method Man and Redman pass the ACTs after they meet each other.
By being able to speak with every other ghost in heaven to get them the answers. And only people that smoke this, whatever it's called, Ivory.
The Ivory.
It's called Ivory. They can see the ghost, and so that's how also Redman is able to get here. Which I don't even know why Redman showed up. His mom wanted him to go to college. He's not even there for purpose.
He didn't want to still live with his mom anymore in Pork Chops and Chunky commercials.
And then he ends up meeting the vice president of the United States' daughter there, and they end up hooking up. Redman does. Yeah. And then Method Man hooks up with Lisa Turtle.
And takes her away from Bart the Fart.
Bart the Fart. The captain of the Heroes crew.
All in all, a lot of hijinks. Really fun movie. There's just a lot of good scenes in it that I felt that I enjoyed. Some people might not. I guess I understand that. I don't understand it, but I get it, I guess.
Moving on. Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back.
Which I think we had a little bit of Clerks in '94, so that was the groundwork that was laid for Jay and Silent Bob. I don't really remember marijuana use is definitely part of Clerks, but I don't know if it was a real big plot point. Jay and Silent...
It was just the Jay and Silent Bob aspect of it, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know if Dante and... Was it Ruben and Dante? Mm-hmm. I think they might have smoked a little bit, but I don't remember I haven't brushed up on my Kevin Smith universe in a while.
Yeah, but Jay and Silent Bob, we got Blunt Man and Chronic.
There you go.
A superhero...
And the cock knocker. Mark Hamill is the cock knocker.
A great stoner movie. And like you say, a Kevin Smith movie that it just...
You know what the most fun part about watching Jay and Silent Bob stoned is? Is when the people you never expect to pop up in a movie like this pop up in it. And you're just like, is that really that person? That's the most enjoyable part.
Yeah, and they're not great movies, but they always are pretty funny. The Wash, one that I'm sure you've never seen before.
Is this about a car wash?
Yeah, it's about a car wash, but it's Snoop, Dre, basically every West Coast rapper that you can fit in there.
So it's Soul Plane, except on the ground at a car wash?
Don't do that. That's not nice.
What?
Don't. I know what you're doing, and I don't like it. Tommy Chong, our friend, back in The Wash. It's like I don't want to say this because I don't mean it in this way, but it's kind of like a Tyler Perry movie before Tyler Perry.
Your words, not mine. I wasn't going to say it.
We get Super Troopers, too.
Oh, yes.
Super Troopers,
Candy bars.
Not a stoner movie, but a movie that is fantastic to watch stoned.
Misleading at first, though, because you think it will be a stoner movie, because the very first scene, it features very prominently. It's God's water, man. She can sue me anytime. Sue me. No, Super Troopers is an excellent watch, either stoned or sober. Just an excellent all-around movie. But yes, definitely what I would consider in movies with good stoned characters that features a healthy message for marijuana.
Broken Lizard Boy's got one coming out on 420.
Oh, what's it called?
It's
Igor, or it's Quasi.
Yeah, Quasi.
It's about
Quasimodo.
Quasimodo, yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited for that.
We'll see.
They haven't made a bad movie in my eyes.
Really?
Yeah.
Slam and Salmon?
I loved it.
Really?
I love the Slam and Salmon. I got that shit on DVD. That's how much I like it.
Meat drapes. It's Metropodes. Why doesn't it sound like that when I say it? Harold and Kumar. I fucking love this movie.
First installment, and they come out of the gate swinging. You get a fucking weird ass them riding a cheetah.
That part, I completely forgot about that part until I was watching it, and I was waiting for them to take off on the cheetah, and then I was like, this has got to be like a dream sequence where all of a sudden they're just going to be sitting on a log because they're so fucking stoned. I forgot that they fucking actually ride the cheetah. The Neil Patrick Harris part is easily the highlight of it.
Yeah, when he ends up getting back and he gives Roldy back his keys, and he hands him like $200 because he made some love stains. And he's like, yeah, dude, dick move. I understand.
And here's the
My
thing
bad.
too. I think Harold and Kumar is one of those rare movies where the first one and the second one equally as good.
Yeah, third one definitely fell off a cliff. Not worth
I still watch
mentioning.
Strong Christmas.
Yeah, it's not bad, but it's not good.
No.
But yeah, even the second one. I think the second one was
Guantanamo.
2010s, but just as popular, just as funny. They really came back with a good sequel. Mm-hmm. And just another. In the second one, I don't know if it's on the other board, but you get them getting arrested because Kumar builds a
smokeless
bong.
Yeah. He tries to smoke it on the airplane,
And the white lady sees him, and it just
yeah, it looks like a fucking terrorist. Yep. Boom. Oh, this one might be the best of the bunch. This last one, and I don't think it has a pretty like deep cult following, but I don't think this one got as much love as it should have.
It's Happy Madison, isn't it?
Yeah.
So maybe
Like I think almost one of the first Happy Madisons.
and very underrated, but yeah, like you say, it has this weird cult following as far as it. I don't think it made very much movie at the box office,
No.
but it's just sold
Grandma's
so many
Boy, come on.
DVDs. Yeah. Grandma's Boy is
Not the best portrayal of a stoner, but I mean, puts him into. Listen, he's got a good job at a video game company.
he's an
confident in his
everyman
job.
for a guy that's a video game developer. I think.
Exactly. People like him. He's likable. He's designing his own video game. He gets to, unfortunately, have to go live with his Nana and her two roommates. Hilarity ensues.
One of them a wild pillhead, and the other one a cougar. Much after
He gave
Blanche's
Charlie
heart.
Chaplin a hand job. No, he ends up getting the hot chick in the end.
Best Nick Swardson character that's ever been.
Oh,
made.
hands down.
Easily.
Hands down. But if you haven't watched Grandma's Boy, and here, this is a stoner movie.
Yeah, through and
Definitely.
through and through.
It's
That's
central to the plot, and it's people getting stoned most of the movie.
how we got there. That's definitely you understand how that movie is set up
Mm-hmm.
to where it needs to be.
Going to TV.
A little sparse, but some of the big ones, just the sparse ones. We come into again the 2000s with that 70s show, always solid. There was a show on HBO called Bored to Death with Jason Schwartzman, Ted Danson. It was very good, very underrated. I never actually saw Weeds too much. I think I watched maybe the first season of Weeds.
That's how far I've gotten into Weeds. I don't know. It was just like it's focused more on like the dealing and the criminal aspect part of it. And you get like Kevin Nealon's character, who actually is like one of the guys that buys from her, and he's funny and he smokes and everything like that. But it's a show about dealing weed. It's not a show where like doing it or smoking it or making it into like lighthearted situations is really that prevalent. There's a lot of drama to it.
I feel like, and this might not be a good comparison, but it was like a poorer version of Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
That's sort of what it felt
That's a fair
like to
assessment.
me.
Yeah. With more comedy.
Yeah, more comedy.
It's supposed to be lighthearted. It's supposed to be, it's not meth, it's weed. So let's make it a little bit lighter.
But just, it was, even in the execution, it just lacked.
Well, over on the other side of it, let's flip over Entourage.
Yeah.
Entourage 2004. Entourage was basically just like stoner wish fulfillment, is all it was. There's a generation of guys that have watched Entourage and always saw themselves in,
Wanted to be Ari.
or wanted to identified. Everyone thought they were Vince, but who they really were was someone else in Vince's group. There were Turtles and, Ease and Johnny Dramas and all that kind of stuff. But I think the big thing with Entourage is that it was like, it made it seem that people that like didn't have to, it took it out of the hands of like being like younger kids or like losers and that kind of stuff. But it's like, no, this is like a movie star and his friends that are like able to smoke and all that kind of stuff.
You might be a loser, but this could be you one day.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if I ever like sat down and watched like chronologically a full season of Entourage, but it was just always on. It felt
I
like.
watched it. Yeah.
Just everybody wanted to watch it and everybody liked it, so it was just kind of always on. Maybe like yours, Trailer Park Boys is, I think, cinematic brilliance. I think as
I haven't really, I've seen a couple episodes,
I remember
so I'm going to defer to your judgment.
the first time I think I gave you, I had just bought the season 1 and 2 DVDs maybe, and I'd watch it. I was like, hey, watch these. Let me know what you think. And he gave them back to me like, that's not very good. But it's so funny.
I watched a few episodes. I know who Bubbles is. I know who, that's pretty much it. I know the guy in the black shirt that always has whiskey, and then the dude with the perm mullet.
Ricky
and
Sexy Julian is the one in the black shirt.
All right.
But it's incredible to see. Maybe it's just the American aspect of seeing like that Canada has trailer parks too, and they kind of have.
We're not alone.
Yeah, like, it's a totally different kind of trailer park, but it has so many of the same tenets of the things that you think of when you think of a trailer park. And it's Ricky growing dope, trying to get his grade 10 because I think it's his grade 10, which is what I think sophomore.
He's trying to get his degree.
Yeah,
like
they call it when they finish a year, it's grade whatever. So he's trying to get
sophomore.
He never got it, so he's trying to get his grade 10. And when he gets his grade 10, everything's going to change for him, and he's going to be able to get.
He doesn't have to get to grade 12.
Maybe grade 10's like a big deal up there. I don't know, but
grade 11 and 12 are optional.
Yeah,
that's like honors.
That's secondary
honors programs.
schooling.
Yeah,
but
it's college basically.
Ultimately, he falls back into the same trap of needing to grow marijuana in order to make his life
scratching to survive.
Well, and really, over time, you see that Ricky's like a savant. If there's one thing that Ricky knows in his life, it's hockey, eating pepperoni, and growing weed. And he sells it to fucking Snoop Dogg. Like, there's so many guest appearances from somebody. Tom Arnold does like 4 or 5 episodes, like crazy, weird Tom Arnold that... like he plays himself, but he wants to live the Trailer Park Boys experience. So like he pays Ricky to try to sleep with his ex-wife.
Do you ever think that Tom Arnold is like a liberal? Oh my god, I had his name on the tip of my tongue. Who's the fucking crazy guy that?
Which one? There's a lot.
The guy that talks like this.
Alex Jones.
Yeah, Tom Arnold is like a liberal Alex Jones. Have you noticed that?
A little bit.
Yeah.
He's just kind of like a creature unto himself. I don't even really know how to describe
He's a Tom
him.
Arnold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's what happens when you have to spend a lot of time around Roseanne.
That's. Is it a Kellyanne Conway like her and her husband situation where you're like, how the fuck does that work?
Yeah, this makes no sense.
Yeah.
But it went for forever. I think they had like 20 seasons of Trailer Park Boys.
Seriously?
Yeah, and they still it's
gotta be super like cheap to produce.
Oh, it has. Yeah, it's the same trailer park that they use, and it's in Canada, so they don't have to pay a lot of like the taxes or anything like that to film in Halifax. I think is where they are, but it's had staying power. SwearNet is the company that that Julian, Bubbles, and Ricky, they're actual people. Like they own.
Kind of like how like Rob McElhenney and Glenn and Charlie own the company that does like Always Sunny, like that production company. Gotcha. Okay.
Yep, they have a media company. They do like they take it on tour and do like a stage show with it. I mean, it's very big business for them now, but it
sounds like Canadian Always Sunny.
Yeah, a lot like it. A crossover would just make my life, but it's a fun kind of different spin on like a bad mockumentary.
I'm kind of surprised that Always Sunny hasn't really dipped its toes too much into that. Have they? Oh, have there been? I've watched every Sunny episode. I'm trying to rack my brain. I know that Country Mac during Mac Day likes to smoke.
Gets them high at the planetarium.
Where they're sitting there just eating snacks, just fucking red. I'd be like, I hate Mac. I hate Mac so much. He makes fun stuff not fun.
There's Frank when he is, I think it's right when Dee has a heart attack when he's hitting the bong, and he tells Charlie to upload him a hoagie from the internet. So they make references, but there's never been like a weed-centric episode.
We get South Park too. So South Park has the introduction of Tally. And Tally is the product of government experimentation to design a towel, like the most absorbent towel that's actually alive. And he escapes the lab. It's like in Colorado or something that he escapes the lab. And all Tally likes to do is smoke weed and then just remind people that if they're going to go somewhere, always bring a towel. So it's, don't forget to bring a towel. And you guys want to get high?
I think there's like a whole episode too that explains like Tally's first time getting high. Like, because he was very smart and like very studious.
He still is very smart, but he feels like he has to smoke to like increase his intelligence. And then as soon as he smokes, he completely forgets because they'll be like, okay, which way do we go now? Tally's like, oh man, What are we doing here?
You see his eyes go from just straight white
Oh,
to
yeah.
the glassy red. Yeah, just a solid character he's the stoner's character. I think Tally, as far as merchandise and shit like that they sold just through the roof. He's still in all their like TV specials, like they had the coronavirus one.
Yeah.
And he's Randy's partner, Integrity Farms.
Yep.
So he's
Yeah, South Park, and I mean this isn't just to the 2000s, but South Park has come out with a few episodes when it's kind of been in the news cycle and everything. When Colorado legalized it, they did a huge episode for Colorado. That was the episode where Randy,
Testicular cancer.
Yep, where Randy microwaves his balls so you can get him to grow big enough to where he can get a medical marijuana card, and then they hippity hop on his testicles with all his neighbors down to the fucking dispensary.
He ends up having to try to fight the laws too because his balls get too big to fit in the dispensary,
And they have to start widening doors in the town and everything. Yeah,
and then you get the subplot of Cartman being the Tony Montana of KFC because they're taking all the fast food restaurants out.
and how women are actually attracted to balls. Like
They all
Sharon.
want a scrote skin coat.
Yeah. Hey Sharon,
gets
my eyes are up here. Oh,
South Park really has been unabashed. They have like pot-driven episodes, but it's always kind of loomed in there, especially now with Randy, Integrity Farms, and all that. Randy being the stoner of the show, Stan's dad, is like the best choice that they could have made.
I feel like we're forgetting a big one for the 2000s.
Movie or TV?
Movie. Oh, we missed back in
Pineapple-
98, Lebowski.
Oh, is that what it was in the
Yeah,
90s?
back in 98. Sorry, we're jumping back to 98, Lebowski. Big Lebowski, if you guys have not seen it, stop this, go watch it. The movie's excellent, whether you're sober or smoking. Smoking just makes it that much more enjoyable, just because it's an absurd movie as far as the story goes, but it's fucking hilarious. Just the dialogue back and forth is great.
The dialogue's the best part, man.
Yeah.
The whole idea of it is so dumb.
Easily Jeff Bridges' best character he's ever done. And he's done
Yeah.
some pretty fucking good characters.
He has, and that's what I mean. His character is fantastic, but the whole idea behind the story, just the fact that the millionaire and him have the exact same name, and he accidentally gets jumped because they're trying to squeeze this millionaire for money, and Lebowski's like the poorest guy that's ever lived. Like, it's just such a bad lead-in.
Hey, Woo, isn't this guy supposed to be a millionaire? Yeah, what do you think? I think he's a fucking loser.
The best part about it is just the whole rug aspect of it.
That's exactly the point.
That's all the dude wants.
Yeah,
he
just wants his
a
rug back, a rug back that it can tie the room together.
It's got to tie the room back together. But I think the funniest part of besides the crash scene, which I will put up against any other crash scene that there is, but the scene where he gets woken up on the rug that he steals from,
When he's listening to the bowling, the sounds of the
Yeah.
strikes and everything, that's how he gets in the zone.
and he wakes up just long enough for the chick to hit him, and then the next thing is he wakes up and the rug is gone from underneath him. He's still in the same spot. It's like Lebowski just did everything that he could to get this rug back, and now all of a sudden, after all this toil and trouble that he had to get, he finally gets a rug back, and then immediately gets knocked out and gets the rug stolen right back.
It's John Goodman, Steve Buscemi, Philip Seymour Hoffman.
John Goodman is the best annoying character.
Walter Sobchak pulled a firearm in league play today.
Just his whole idea of like anything that anybody brings
Relating
up, it's
back
like,
to
yeah,
Nom.
I know about that. I know about everything about that more than anybody else could ever know about that. And he just continuously screws the dude at every single turn when he's just trying to get his rug and trying to get a little bit of money.
Everything's a fucking travesty with you, Walter. All right, moving back to 2010s.
Oh, I wanted to check because I forgot to put the Express on the board. I wanted to see if we were 2000s or 2010s. Anything after the 2000s, man, it just really feels like it all blends together.
2010 is when that's kind of when streaming really hits its stride, and when so many shows become available, there's really too many to zero in on. We are in the golden age of Judd Apatow and Seth Rogen movies.
Yeah.
Seth Rogen, I don't think he really has a partner now. He's got a writing partner, that Evan Goldman or Goldberg or whatever, but he's not an actor, so it's not like a Cheech and Chong. acting type thing.
He had that, and then Franco had to be weird.
That's true. Well, Franco was never really writing with him and Evan Goldberg anyway. Franco was just kind of the character that he played with. So like Cheech and Chong wrote all of their stuff together and then starred in it. Rogan writes with this other guy, but then the other usually was someone else, like Franco stepping in or Jay Baruchel or, you know, whoever
Jonah
from that
Hill,
group.
anybody like that, yeah.
But he's kind of the torchbearer for kind of the new kind of the new generation.
New kind of weed movies. And I think they have a stranglehold on the market, and it starts Knocked Up, definitely a stoner movie. Mm-hmm. Katherine Heigl is still such a bad actress that I got to kind of forget that she's in it.
Yeah.
But it is just the quintessential stoner movie, just an illegal immigrant from Canada that doesn't have a citizenship, that just all he can do is get stoned and hang out with his buddies.
And he may or may not be the character that was in 40-Year-Old Virgin.
Yeah, could be.
That was working at the, whatever they want to call it, the Circuit City or I forgot fucking what it was called.
I think it was Circuit City.
Yeah, it was something like that. But yeah, as far as that goes, I mean, movies, you get stuff like Ted, This Is the End, Seth Rogen, Sausage Party, Seth Rogen, We Are the Millers. God, why can't I think of his name right now? Ted Lasso. Jason Sudeikis.
Yeah.
Oh, we get Jennifer Aniston in a striptease.
In terrible underwear, but it was still hot.
Of course it was hot. It was Jennifer Aniston.
Yeah, even in that bad underwear that she wore, that old lady underwear. Well, even before that, just because I forgot to put it on the board, 2008 was Pineapple Express. And Pineapple Express, I believe, spawned the actual strain of Pineapple Express, like named it. Because I don't think before this...
I think it did.
There was anything before that. It was actually just the tropical storm that James Franco does correctly reference when he's explaining where the weed comes from.
And like it mixes in with the soil, and it's all very technical, and I can't explain it right now.
Yeah, he explains the high pressure and the low pressure and the heat and the cold mixing up.
I think that might be Up in Smoke, the modern Up in Smoke.
Yeah. Yeah, it's two stoner buddies. It's a little less bitty and a little bit more plot driven, but it has kind of all the same trappings and all the goofy shit and the throw up scenes and just all very similar.
What do you mean it's dead? Oh, the fact that Franco had to turn out to be a fucking creep probably robbed us of some good movies going forward.
Yeah, I'm not even 100% sure. I think I read some things, and I mean, I'm probably just okay, like letting them sit it out for a while, because it seems to be what they do before they make a comeback.
If the people that are closer to the situation and have probably more knowledge of it are sitting it out and everything, I trust Seth Rogen's judgment that it was probably warranted.
It's people smarter than me that are making these judgments about other people.
Mm-hmm. What did we get music-wise? I mean, what didn't, like, we're in kind of the golden age of it right now for pop culture is what it is.
Yeah, and this is literally, like you said earlier, that country music references weed more than rap does. Roll Me Up, Willie, obviously. Weed Not Roses by Ashley Monroe, solid country song. Blowin' Smoke, Casey Musgraves. Might As Well Be Stoned, Chris Stapleton. Like, just every single hot country act was putting out a song about getting high.
Yeah, Blake Shelton. Listen to any of Zach Brown's music.
Yeah.
And then I think Sturgill had some. Did you already say Sturgill?
No, Sturgill was definitely influenced.
Half of Eric Church's music is about getting stoned. So, and this just goes back to kind of one of those things. It's probably boring as fuck out in the country. How do you make it more fun and entertaining? Yeah. Get fucking stoned.
It's not just outlaw country anymore that's singing about getting high. It's these mainstream poppy country
Mima
acts.
country.
Yeah. Marijuana by Cuddy was a banger. Cuddy was really in the zone when it came to weed songs. Just everything that he did. Great albums to listen to high.
Mm-hmm. How I Met Your Mother, going into TV. How I Met Your Mother was one that actually introduced that, but they did it kind of in the even more subtle than that 70s show did it. They would refer to it as sandwiches.
Huh.
And they would have a bag of sandwiches, and it actually was a bag, and they're like, I can't even believe I'm going to eat this whole sandwich, man.
Oh, that was like that
was their version, because remember, he's telling the story to his kids about how he met their mother, so he says they're sandwiches. probably one of the all-time greats for shows. Very weed-centric, coming out Comedy Central, Workaholics.
Yeah, I do believe if I went on a Jeopardy Workaholics, I've watched enough to amass all the information that I need. Workaholics
You're just
is,
starting at the 1,000. You're not even going Workaholics
Yeah,
200.
no.
You're just starting to...
We're clearing the board
Yep.
from the bottom up.
Yep.
But it's just perfect, man. I don't know how really to explain such a good comedy because it's 3 degrees of stoner.
Mm-hmm.
You have like the weird art stoner, you have the jock kind of broy stoner, and then you have the
Professional.
weirdly professional, but like
That was Anders, yeah.
only to call center professional level. Like there's nothing beyond
That's
call
why I could
center
identify with
professional.
that so much too, having spent a good chunk of time in call centers. Here's the thing too, how you're marking down, fuck, that's delicious.
Yeah.
Now it's branching over to essentially like Food Network type stuff. And I know that's not on Food Network,
Everywhere. Yeah.
but the fact that that's now coming into play as, experiencing culinary dishes while you're stoned and everything like that. The one thing that people love to do because it makes it taste so much better and it can be an event. That branches into...
You've never seen a cooking show where they're like, hey, let's get piss ass drunk and taste some food. Mm-hmm. That's never the thought process.
No, because you just eat bad pizza or burritos and you'd be like, this is the most fucking delicious thing I've ever had.
Alcohol just completely deadens your mouth and it deadens all your taste buds, so that's not going to happen. But the absolute best thing to do is be like, hey, let's get high and try some food. And then they're like, hey, let's try some food that makes us high.
Did they do that too?
Oh, yeah. Multiple shows have done that. They did
Chelsea Handler did that. She had like a dinner or something like that, and she recorded it, and it was them doing a 5-course meal with different marijuana-infused dishes, different like milligrams and stuff in each one.
There's one, I think it's called Weedakit. It's on Vice where they do that, where they have a professional chef come in and work with like a bud tender or a weed scientist. Mm-hmm. And like they combine shit and make different foods with different like... It'll be a sauce that's infused, or it'll be like a pork loin that's cooked, like steamed in weed leaves, like shit like that. But then there was actual shows where it was like cooking competitions, and I forget what it was, but Be Real was the guy that... Be Real from...
Cypress Hill.
Cypress Hill, yeah, was the host, and he would get these other like weed smoking guest judges, and they would go like Chopped, where they would make them dishes to get them high, and then they would go 3 rounds, so they would progressively get higher and higher and higher for each dish. Fantastic TV.
Well, and this completely opens up even shows that this is almost like the 2010s. You could say this for almost any decade, but there was so much of an availability of shows that were awesome to watch while stoned, like like diners, dive-ins, and drives. Just watching that food get made just on like Food Network type stuff. If you're into getting stoned and watching HGTV for like a fucking home renovation or some stuff, you could just lose yourself in a rabbit hole into that, watching a demo and then rebuilding the house and everything.
Before you know it, you're 4 hours into some asshole trying to pick his dream house in Hawaii on where to live, when he's like he like weaves blankets. Mm-hmm.
But makes $450,000 a year.
Their budget's like $500,000.
This even kind of goes into like 2000s and 2010s were really when like Planet Earth and that stuff started coming out in like extreme HD, and you could get just baked off your ass and just sit there and try to learn something or attain something, but like everything is so beautiful in front of you, you're just like, and then you see the scenes where like someone's gonna die, like the seal on the iceberg, and you're just like, no, what's going to happen? Get out of there, man! Get out of there!
Nature is the greatest storyteller that there's ever been.
Yes.
And especially in high def with Attenborough doing the speaking.
I think that might be key. I think it might be a combination of the HD images and David Attenborough's, just that old husky, almost a cigar smoker's voice.
You know, we were talking about the other night about shows that you want to watch in pitch black, or like when you want to watch TV, it's in pitch black. Planet Earth is the number one thing that you want to watch with the absence of light anywhere else around it. Because it's just like you're there, and if you have a big enough TV that's close enough to you, you might as well just be in nature.
A TV,
TV, yeah.
Two,
television. That's if you're in front of that screen for Planet Earth, you're there. You're gonna be there.
And here's one thing, kind of going off of like how stuff feels now. Because we are in a situation where it's recreational legal in, is it 20% of states now? I think it's
I think
recreational
so.
in 20%. It's more than 50 for medical. I'm just saying it's a lot more prevalent in just our culture nowadays and everything, is that you're starting to see, I think, more accurate portrayals of just people that use this, that use weed, use
Yeah.
marijuana. You're going to get into situations where it's not just going to be stereotypical type characters. Even watching shows that come out like, high drama shows like Euphoria and stuff like that, like they're smoking weed. That's probably on the light side of the stuff they're doing and everything.
Yep.
But you're getting essentially more just accurate real world portrayals of just everyday people that use it. I think part of the reason that that's not exciting and people don't want to see that is because it is boring. Like it, how often do you see in a TV show? Roseanne actually comes to mind. First thing, what is the first thing Dan did when he got home?
Got a beer.
That's exactly what it is. He went to the fridge, opened it, and got a beer. And that's something that almost happened in like every type of like sitcom. Dad gets home from work, reaches in the fridge. Instead of that, like
Kramer busts in, walks right over, starts looking over Jerry's food.
nowadays, how often is it that someone walks in the door and grabs their pen and takes a pull before they go in the house or something like that after work? That's the new grabbing a beer out of the fridge. I feel like that happens just as, maybe not as often, everything like that, but I feel like that's just as casual now.
It doesn't get represented as much, and maybe it's just where we are and just the relative ease of it. But vape pens and shit like that have just made the act of smoking so much easier. Mm-hmm. It's just impossibly easy now to take a drag on the way from your car in the garage before you walk in the house, exhale in there, you're inside. You're just none the wiser. It's just so simple. You take out all the aspects of not wanting to smell like weed or not wanting it to stink or having to go outside to smoke, anything like that. It's just the easiest, most compact thing to do. I don't ever see that like represented on TV.
No.
It's always got to be somebody lighting up a doobie or
Where you're like, that couldn't happen right there. There's too many people around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very odd how we are as open as we are, but it's hidden in food. When you see an edible, you never think drugs.
Yeah.
Like, it just, you have to know what it is to know that it's something bad. So the intake, I definitely think, doesn't portray kind of where we are in the time of pot, but it is just more out there and socially accepted. I find it incredible that it can be so ingrained in society, and everybody can say, that over half the people in the country want legal weed. Like, it's a thing that I think everybody knows now. But for some reason in the government, they're just like, we're not going to give the people what they want. And
It's too many people take a hit in the old checkbook if that happens. And
yeah,
they get money from those people. And I mean, unfortunately, it's as simple as that. I think there's been probably no more prevalent of a place of really antiquated way of thinking about weed than professional sports. And I know we're going to kind of hit on that kind of quick on where we stand on weed with professional sports and everything. But I think my biggest thing with weed and pro sports is that for some reason it would be considered a performance enhancer.
I think it is, but not in the traditional way that you think of performance enhancement. I think that it sort of helps on a mental scale after like a long practice and a long day. You can try to say, oh, well, the CBD in it helps relax muscles and stuff like that. If you're smoking flower, it's going to have very little CBD in it. You might be taking some drops or some oils or some shit like that to actually get it in there, but smoking a J it's not going to give you the CBD you need.
No, and I'm not saying it doesn't give you. Here's the thing. I feel like I can smoke it and be an enhanced version of myself in regards to like my empathy, my patience, my stress level. I feel I can think differently. I'm not saying I can think as clearly in regards to certain tasks, but I feel like I can think more clearly in regards to other tasks.
Your monkey
creative
brain
tasks.
kicks in.
Exactly. And so I could see if you were watching game film or something like that and you're looking for things and trying to recognize patterns and that kind of stuff. My biggest takeaway from it is professional sports have no shortage of options for their athletes as far as like pain management. It's really no holds barred for that. And if health and safety of their players was as important as they always claim for it to be, allowing an alternative to opiates or Toradol, how many stories, and this has only been since, athletes have started coming out and talking about it. We hear more about it, like what, Toradol Tuesdays, where NFL players after Monday, they would get shot up with basically cortisol and everything to help recovery and sore muscles and pulls and stuff like that.
Yeah, Toradol is just going to numb everything. You're just not going to be able to feel it. It's not going to make you all loopy and high, but it's basically just like cutting off the nerves to that part of the body.
Yeah,
for a
exactly.
while.
And that's just going to lead to more injury, where there have been benefits shown for, recovery and things like that by, like you're saying, they're not using a ton of CBD and everything, but just from the pain management standpoint.
Well, and even, I mean, I don't know if it's strictly CBD or if it is marijuana, but it's shown to make a difference in people that have concussions. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's shown to help try to insulate those nerve endings or whatever it is in there that really gets wrecked when your head bounces around. It has a healing prospect that could be life-changing for guys that literally line up across each other and run head-to-head into each other.
Or CTE is a huge thing that's in professional football that they're looking out for right now.
They paid billions of dollars over CTE. Mm-hmm. Why would you not be trying to do everything that you can to stop having to pay that money?
Yeah, and as far as some of the more well-known advocates, I mean, I think in professional football, especially when you see all the guys that have retired and have podcasts and talk about now how they smoke openly and all that kind of stuff, just because they like the way that it helps them feel, their bodies recover, and just the the relaxation aspect of it. Chris Long is a huge proponent and played in the NFL for like 10 years, maybe a little bit more.
Yeah.
You get guys like Ricky Williams he was using it in college when he won the Heisman.
I mean,
do you know he has a strain of weed and it's called Heisman weed?
Really?
Yeah.
It makes total sense. Those guys, I think, as much as they got persecuted in the front end of it, have only reaped the benefits in the back end of it.
Yeah.
Because these guys were weed pioneers. You have Ricky Williams, a guy that walked away from the NFL because he got tired of being drug tested and just wanted to smoke weed. Mm-hmm. He walked away from one of the most lucrative jobs in the world because he wanted to smoke weed.
Because he felt it was best for him. He suffered, going through, what he suffered, social anxiety, all this kind of stuff, personality type disorders. He's like, this was the first thing. He's like, I had tried pills and Paxil and all this kind of stuff that was prescribed to me by team doctors and people and specialists that I went to. And he's like, I found after all of that, the thing that made me feel the best and helped out my symptoms was weed. And because of that, he chose to take care of himself and retired from the NFL. Tried to do a comeback. I think he did a comeback and everything. But then eventually, once he fully did retire, went right back to being an advocate. Probably still used it during his time when he was playing, but just more careful about it.
This is where I am kind of shocked with how this all happens in sports. Is there's just players that smoke weed all the time. Like, it's not shocking at all.
Josh Gordon gave up his career, basically.
Josh Gordon is a weird case study because I know that there's so many more people that smoke weed in the NFL, but for some reason he was the only one that couldn't pass a test. Mm-hmm. Like, is that just the coaches not wanting him to get clean piss, or...
Ricky Williams was talking about something that they had that was like some type of detox drink.
Yeah.
And he knew when they would come to test him because they would call him and be like, hey, I'll be there at 6 a.m. So at 5 o'clock in the morning, he said he'd wake up, drink this drink, drink a glass of water, wait a little bit, drink another glass of water, pee, and then he knew that his next round of piss would be clean. And I don't know how many tests he passed like that. I don't know if it was very effective depending on how many times. But he said he was being tested very, very frequently after he got popped like the first or second time.
When you're a problem child, they definitely pay more attention. But, I mean, Michael Vick got caught going through the airport because his water bottle had a secret compartment in it that had weed in it.
You have one of those.
Well, excuse me. His was like a Nalgene.
Yeah. Okay.
But he said, that's where I keep all my jewelry and everything like that when I travel because I don't want anything to get stolen. They're like, well, why was there a bunch of weed in it? And he's like,
I didn't want it to get stolen.
Yeah.
For the same reason I put my jewelry in it, so it
What's the
doesn't get
same-
fucking stolen.
There's no good answer to that question.
Did I not explain that to you?
Back in the days,
You're getting guys that are getting longer suspensions for actual fucking weed than you
yeah.
do for like domestic violence and fucking actual PEDs.
I think PEDs is like the first one's 4 games,
Yeah.
and the second one's 8, something like that. But weed used to be the exact same. They have lightened up on it a little bit, but it's in every sport that you wouldn't expect, and I am shocked that we haven't seen somebody getting high in a dugout yet. Like, there has to be somebody who's too stupid. Baseball is the simplest sport to smoke weed at.
Yeah.
Because you just go stand out there in the field, you're hanging out, it's a great day outside, you're looking around at the fans.
Have it in your glove. Have it just the fucking pen sticking out of one of the fingers of your glove. Act like you're just chewing on your glove.
You're just sitting there gnawing on seeds because your mouth is so dry that you can't get them cracked and spit.
So it's still not legal in professional baseball.
Yep.
Still not legal in
NFL.
NBA.
Hockey, I don't really think. I think it's probably still pretty illegal. The NBA just moved forward, and I think it was a new collective bargaining agreement that they just signed that stated that they will not test them for they will not test them for pot anymore. So the NBA has completely gone away with it. A league that had a team in the late 90s and early 2000s that they called the Jailblazers, because they were always in trouble for breaking laws and losing, like failing drug tests, getting caught with weed. Damon Stoudemire, a solid old point guard that played for them, got pulled over, and he had like an ounce of weed that was wrapped up in tinfoil in his center console. So like just out in the open, and there were just NBA players that were driving around like that. There was just zero give a fuck back then. And this is Rasheed Wallace, Brian Grant.
Rasheed Wallace.
Yeah. Brian Grant, who was like the first guy in the NBA with legitimate dreads that looked like he was a hippie. They just had everybody that was going to get in trouble. Not to mention, probably the greatest drug taker of the NBA, Bill Walton, was just high all the time.
Oh, yeah.
That guy back in the 70s and 80s was just, that was him. He was just
red-eyed fucking grabbing rebounds.
Yeah, he was scoring 20 and grabbing you 20 a night, but he was high the whole time.
NHL, marijuana is not designated as a performance-enhancing drug. So
Really?
test positive doesn't lead to a suspension.
I wonder if that's because it's more Canada-centric and Canada looks at it differently.
The sport itself may feel more Canada-centric, but there's more teams in the United States than there are in Canada as part of the NHL.
That's true.
But still, they're not going to... If anything, man, hockey, it's a combination of fucking football, the physicality of getting hit during football, and then also you're fucking on razor blades. You're getting beat the fuck up in really any sport. I mean, some more than others, but hockey definitely seems like one that would make sense for pain relief. You're getting teeth knocked out during games and shit.
Yeah, pain relief, and it just helps you sprint back faster.
You literally can fight during the fucking game.
It's not like it used to be, but skating high is something that I really can't wrap my mind around right now. I feel like that would be as close to floating as you could get.
I think if you were good at skating, that would be just one of the most like surreal feelings of just like you could barely feel any movement or like resistance and just going in a circle and speed and
you're kicking a leg back for some propulsion, you're like 13%.
Last time we went on vacation, I think me and Katie went ice skating, and I was actually pretty stoned while we were ice skating. It was fun.
I could see that being just a fun time.
You're in more danger of it. You're in a more dangerous situation on a pair of skates than I am.
Yeah, oh yeah. I'm hitting big tree fall hard.
Oh yeah.
They're gonna have to Zamboni me off the ice. I may not get
just do the thing where I get you pushed and then get the brooms in front of you, like what do they call that sport? Shuffle, or what do they call that?
Curling.
Curling. That's right.
Yeah,
Have to curl your ass off the ice.
I can say the last time that I went skating, it was like coming home from an orgy, man. Like my ass hurt for like a week after that. I hit my tailbone so hard, and I just remember thinking, this isn't worth it. I'm too big to skate. This isn't gonna happen.
This wasn't built for me.
Yeah, you don't see 6'6" guys running around, just big old boys out there on the ice. No, you're going
I think
down.
you see some big boys on the ice.
Well,
They may
'cause
not
they're
be the
wearing
best
skates.
skaters.
Yeah, no.
Might not be the best
They're
skaters.
goalies.
All right, man. Well, you got anything else to add to where we're at currently with the state of marijuana in our union?
No, I think we're getting there. I think slow steps. If it's permeated this much of just pop culture and people that watch TV and listen to music and everything, I feel like we're on the right path. It's just finally getting over the hump of government. And I don't know, how dedicated to the cause you are, or if you live in free states or you still live in illegal states, but it is important for everybody, just like all the other rights that we talk about. It's something that everybody should have access to, whether you're down to clown, whether it's not for you. It's like the most harmless thing. It's strictly the only person that it affects is the user.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just keep advocating, I guess.
All right. End it on this. Who's on your Mount Cushmore? 4. You get 4 people. You can use a band as one of the people.
Can I use a group, a duo? Can I use Cheech and Chong as one?
Sure. Yeah. You can just put half their face on the mountain, like one half.
And they'd still somehow look the same.
Yeah.
Cheech and Chong 1. I would probably say at this point Willie Nelson 2, just because his body of work is incredible. Snoop 3, and then hasn't been around long enough, but just seems to really get it as far as being a stoner. Seth Rogen seems like he'd be the best hang ever. So I could hang out with Seth Rogen all day long.
Yeah.
And never get tired of that laugh.
Well, you took 2 of mine. I'll just say the first 2. So Seth Rogen, I'm going to go with Snoop, and then this one I'm going to deviate. I'm going to go with... I'm having a hard time debating whether between McConaughey or Harrelson. I think I'm going to have to go McConaughey just because I feel Woody might get a little bit weird.
You think Woody would be the one that got weird?
I'm willing to roll that dice. I think either or. I think they might actually be brothers like they were in Ed TV. And then for my 4th,
Martha Stewart.
no, I think I'm going to go Bob Ross.
He had to have smoked.
I'm insanely sure. No one is that kind and
chill,
mellow, and just likes to sit there and paint. That's having to be creative to paint those every single show and everything. And even when you make a mistake, it's just a happy little mistake. You can hide it behind a happy little bush and no one will ever see it. It'll be our little secret.
Bob Ross should be the poster child for every marijuana advocacy group. Like, this is what this
is. There
does.
a strain? If there's not already a strain, someone get on that.
Gotta
Bob
be a Bob
Ross.
Ross strain.
There's got to be a Bob Ross. All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining us. If you've been listening to us for a while, thanks for being with us for the 1 year spectacular. And we're going to keep this train rolling as long as we can.
Yeah, we're growing, we're hanging, we're banging, we're having fun. I hope you guys are too.
Later.
Peace.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us for another episode. If you like what you heard, hit that subscribe and like button. Follow us. If you didn't like what you heard, still hit that anyway, because we'll probably cover something in the future that you do like. Please follow us on our social media. Adam, hit them with it.
Our Instagram is Historically High Pod, Historically High POD, and we are on Twitter at Historically High. That's Historically HI.
All right. And if you guys want to send in any feedback, suggestions, hit us up on those 2, or you can even do it on Gmail. It's historicallyhighpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks again.
Peace.